Hello.
Yeah. Cool.
Now I'm talking. Okay. Hello, everybody. Oh my goodness. If it's Wednesday, it's time for a superstar jam-packed, wonderful, incredible Warhammer Weekly. I'm not going to repeat my fine joke. It was fine. It was just fine.
It was a great joke.
It was
good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Y'all should have been there.
Joining me as always is my co-host Tyler. What's up, buddy?
Good to be here.
Hilarious.
Sure.
OBS just decides to reset every so often. I normally do a sound check, but we didn't today because we were setting all this nonsense up, and I was like, yeah, that's fine. Because we could all hear each other, and I was like, okay, great, we're good.
Yeah.
Anyways, also joining us is Tom. He's here. He's back. He's with me in the room.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. And joining us for the first time, as I said, I have been remiss for so long to not have this exemplary, incredibly awesome member of the community on. The runner of AOS List Labs, an awesome human being, Sam Morgan. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, Vince. Hey, Tom. Hey, Tyler. Thanks so much for having me, mate.
Welcome.
Very, very happy to jump on and talk Skaven today. One of my favorite armies in Age of Sigmar.
Yes. Now, you and Tom have never met before, but you don't know it. But the two of you are cut from the same cloth. You both love weird Johnny angle shooting, unusual, clever lists where you show up and your opponent's like, I don't know what any of this does.
Yeah.
You both have a great love of that.
That's my goal. Yeah, is to make my opponent go, I have no idea what's going on.
Right. Yes, Tom has been getting healthy. He's been trying his best with as his life stuff happens. Well, he'll be back at some point in time. We are going to talk Skaven today. We're talking the rats. We're all excited. There is no more fair army in AOS 3.0. That's what we're going to say. But
Fascinating.
Come at me. All right, but we'll get there. The news first.
The news first. Take it away, Tom.
It's not my job.
Uh-huh.
It's the co-host job, and you are the co-host.
Permanent co-host, apparently. Rumor engine.
Yes.
The strangest part of this show that I never know what to say or do, and we usually skip it in 10 seconds. Let's do it. It's a bloody hand of what's that thing called? Avatar of Cain. It's a... Tom, you are amazing at this, actually. You always seem to know some piece of the rumor engine and like what it is on an existing model. Do you know this one, those blades? Is that a Daughters of Cain thing?
It is.
I guess Vince, you might know that.
It's part of an Avatar of Cain. And so it's an alternative Avatar of Cain model. It's clear that's what it is. And you can see it because those are the leg blades of the Avatar itself.
Oh, right. Yep.
And it's bloody. So this is definitely a new Avatar model.
Which would mean it's probably not for... it's probably not for AOS. It's probably the remake of the crappy old resin Avatar of Cain from 40K. Because they're still running on that like ancient 90s resin model. And Eldar seem like they could be due for some kind of revamp.
Yeah.
So I agree with everything you said. And it will be a new chance to get a cool Avatar of Cain. But it's going to be for 40K.
Yeah.
Theirs is the real Avatar. Ours is a statue.
That's right. I think this is Wave 2 Soulblight Gravelords, and it's a Morghast equivalent. So they don't have any like monstrous infantry style units. I reckon this is that.
Something of blood.
Okay.
Because there's, blood. Like, there's definitely blood and blades. We got that. Definitely sure about that.
So do you see anything there, Sam, that is on an existing model? Kind of a similar visual cue?
No,
Not
mine's
really?
just wish listing, like pure wish listing. Nothing
Fair
more.
Fair enough. All right, moving on. So obviously we finally got him. Hallelujah, the Dragon Riders are here. We have been
We
singing.
are the champions, my friends. Yeah, like, look, just everybody shut up. These are amazing. I love these. It's everything I wanted. I'm going to put Skaven heads on them and have little tails coming out from the back of the Stormcast, and it's going to be incredible. I'm going to have my rats riding dragons, a thing I wanted since I started playing this game in 1998 when I converted my Skaven to be riding a Manticore at that time, because that was a thing you could do in 5th edition. And now...
If we didn't know you well enough, I would say none of that was true, but that's absolutely true, everything you just said.
It's absolutely true.
Since
promise you
1998.
it's true. Those were metal models, and I didn't know how to do anything, so I had to just saw models in half with, like, a regular saw. Like, I mean, like a cut a tree saw.
Oh my god. That's amazing. Yeah, I love them. I love them. I mean, obviously, get those stands out of here.
Of course.
Little, yeah.
We're jettisoning those immediately. Immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you guys think we're looking at a unit of min size 1, but you can take it in 2? Or are we looking at a unit of min size 2? Or are we looking at a box of 2? Sam, got any guesses?
Yeah, Sam, you go first. What's your thought?
I think maybe the equivalent to the Blight Lords that are riding the Plague Drones. I think that sort of scale and that sort of army build. So you can unlock it as battle line by taking a general on a dragon. And then presumably those dragon characters we saw last week fit into the sub-faction somewhere. So I'd anticipate a new chamber and then that's sort of oriented around these particular models. I really like them as well. I'm all in on dragons. I think I really like that aesthetic. So I'm keen to see what people are able to do outside of the GW palette, because I think sometimes their pitches actually undersell the new models.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw somebody in the comments say Vince better say he wishes they were more weird. I do. You're not wrong. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous. They're a 10 out of 10. But we could have been an 11 out of 10 if they were more weird. I would love it if they were more weird. But I'm fine with them as they are. Like, it's cool. But sure, if we had been like, if they had like weird super long necks and like maybe a second set of wings and maybe like their front arms were twice as long. Yeah, now we're talking. Just get weird with it. But I'm fine with it as they are. Like, it's cool. I love them. They're still what I want. They remind me of like Legend of Huma and Dragonlance and stuff, and so that's cool. I take that. It's not a bad thing. The fear is, are they as time? This is. I'm just gonna go ahead and make Tom's point. I agree with you. They're Puskoil Blight Lords. I'm stealing your point, Tom. The question is, do you build the guy here, the Knight Draconis or whatever, out of the regular 2 box like you do with the Lord of Afflictions and the Puskoil Blight Lords?
I would think almost certainly, yeah.
Vince
feels very likely.
Vince
You don't think so?
Because of the wings.
Yeah, I think they look different enough. Like, I don't think... It's kind of hard to tell. They could swap some stuff, but just, like, the arm position... Like, they have different position arms. The wings look slightly different. Yeah, I think it's probably 2 separate boxes, but I could be wrong. It's really hard to tell, because they don't give you, like, a good 360 view. So
yeah. The oval bases, they look a little on the smaller side. Maybe like a 105 by
I think
70?
they're not the 92s.
Yeah.
The 92s? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the Lord on Carcassonne size.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would seemingly potentially support the idea of, they come in 2s in a unit.
Yeah.
But, Vince, Tom, what do you guys think about that idea of 2 in a unit?
I love 2 in a unit. 2 in a units are my new favorite unit size. Other than 5 in a unit, 2 in a unit is your next best unit size. Because then you can actually reinforce them once and go to 4, and you're still using the good coherency rules. Right? I mean,
so on their own, I would, like, zombie dragons are 14 wounds, and the vampire, Lazda is 14 wounds with a 3-up save. We've got the Dreadlord on Black Dragon, that's 14 wounds on a 4-up save. So, I mean, a lot of the dragons are minimum 14 wounds. So, like, I would tend to think that they would be 14 wounds and a 3-up save because they're a Stormcast.
I think that's way too many. I don't think it's going to be that big.
No, they're going to be they're going to be 8 to 10 wounds.
Yeah.
They're going to be non-hero 8 to 10 wounds.
Yeah.
Probably 8.
I think similar to a Vengorian Lord, like from a
Yeah.
size 3+ save, 10 wounds, possibly some ability to heal. Hopefully they don't have the ability the Star Drake has. It would be awful if the whole army can just go around and
Oh
munch out
God.
models. Um,
Oh, that'd be a nightmare. Yeah. Oh, Jesus.
As somebody who plays Sons of Behemoth, I don't see the problem.
Sure. Oh my God.
Do they have the monster keyword though? That's the real question. I don't think they do.
Oh, I mean, they have to.
I mean, maybe the single big
Freaking
guy
dragons,
does.
man.
Maybe the little guys don't. I mean, they have units of monsters. Again, see Sons of Behemoth. So, like, it's not like units of monsters are an impossible thing, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
But my guess is, the boss himself is like a 10 wound, 3-up save guy, right? He has the big Annihilator shield, I would point out, so they could always justify giving him the 2-up save.
The
Right?
2-up,
He could
yeah.
be the 2-up save hero that they could, like, they picked that shield perhaps to signify his 2-up save.
Mm-hmm.
So that's possible. The little guys, I would imagine, are like 8 wounds on a 3-up save.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, we'll see. So point guesses. Let's have some point guesses.
Oh, God.
As always, place your bets.
God. All right.
I know these are a weird one because like I was thinking, 14 wounds, 3-up saves, maybe like 415 for the year. But I've been convinced that a lot of our local guys are spouting what you guys are. It's going to be 10 wounds, maybe 8 wounds. It's going to be 2 in a unit, which would seemingly drop that down quite a bit. Sam, you want to kick us off?
Oh, what a Blight! I think Blight Lords are only 185 at the moment, so I'm going to guess a better profile and better buffs in the book for 220. Incidentally,
Okay.
they're gonna be like over $100 Australian. So
Sure.
like you got to figure out how much an army is going to cost as well. I think that is a factor. So I'm going to go 220.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll guess
Vince, you
next.
wanna
I'm going to say 200 even for the unit, and 280 for the main guy, for the hero dude. They like to price,
Gotcha.
assuming we're right about its sort of Vengorian lore. That's where they like to point those types of heroes.
I agree with the 200. I'm going to actually say that the hero's 3.
Okay. Even 300?
Even 3. Yep.
Okay.
Or I think I'm going to revise mine, and we're all going to be 200. And the rationale is they'll want you to be able Stormcaster allies for so many armies. They'll want you to be able to include 4 dragons in all those allies.
Oh.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the narrative is that these are like they definitely do look smaller than certainly the 2 that they came out with, they previewed last week. So maybe, like these are fairly recently born dragons
They're hatchlings.
that you kind of early, hatchlings, that's part of the narrative. And
Let's call them young
8 to 10
adults.
wins.
Let's call them young adults, Tom.
Yeah,
There you
you're
go.
right. They do have elbow hair.
Yeah, we'll get out the old 12-level chart from the 2nd edition monster manual. I'm going young adult. That's what I'm doing.
Nice. All right. Yeah, I no clue. I mean, maybe so if they're small, I like the idea of maybe 240, somewhere around there each. And then maybe 240 for an individual. And maybe there's like the Gargants, which I think you can buy in 3s for 490. Maybe you could buy 2 of them for a discount and as a battle line unit. And then something like plus 60 or plus 40 for the hero.
I hope this same guy retroactively also makes the Dracoths, the foot
Oh yeah.
Guys also battle line. It'd be really cool if you could mix like the new flyy dragons and the old foot dragons
Or
into
the Lord
one
on
army.
Star Drake.
Sure. Like, I think it'll be just this guy. I don't think the Star Drake will make him battle line. I think that'll be one of those things we all go, really? Really? Just saying.
Yeah. All right. So got that out of the way.
Lotus,
We have
by
a
the way,
little
saying he's excited to use them in Cities of Sigmar. Yeah, this is like this whole new release is just like also a Cities of Sigmar release, right? Because if anything good's in here, it's like hello 1 in 4. Just in like Flynn instantly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Stormcast, we had a little preview article, I think maybe like Friday that came out after our show last week. And they mentioned that we're still sticking with the 2 options in terms of armies. So we can do the traditional, lightning down, Signs of the Storm, or the new Storm Keep that we got out of the Broken Realms series. So there's going to be the 2 types of Stormcast forces we're going to have. They highlighted a battle trait, Mortal Auxiliaries, which is pretty cool. So that's the Storm Keep army. I think this was the same as Broken Realms. 1 in every 4 units can be coalition units from the Cities of Sigmar faction.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're
and then
really
you have your
burying
bubble.
the lead here, Tyler, because most of
I know, I was getting to it.
All right.
I'm getting to it.
Get to it.
Storm Keep battle trait, Shield of Civilization. So first and second battle rounds, if any friendly Stormkeep Redeemer units, those are like your Liberators, contest an objective, partial hold within your territory. Each model in the Stormcast unit counts as 3 models. And then starting from the 3rd battle round, it becomes any objective on the battlefield. Your Redeemer units count as 3 per model for objectives.
Yep.
Seems pretty
Go
good.
ahead, Vince.
That's the headline. The headline is Vindictors, already an extremely solid, incredibly wonderful, well-built battle line unit. Now even better. Right?
They're Redeemers? I didn't know
They're
they were Redeemers.
Yes, Vindictors are
wow.
Redeemers.
Okay.
Yep.
Crazy.
So...
Looking good.
Yeah, like, check and check. 3-up save can cause mortal wounds. Great in the grind. Perfect attrition unit. Wonderful battle line. Getting 10 points cheaper when the book comes out. We already know because they showed us the points.
Mm-hmm.
What's not to love, baby? What's not to love? And count for more on the objectives. Yes, please.
Yeah, pretty awesome.
Wow. There's a deep cut.
I saw it too. What's up, Tram? Hey, Trammer. Old buddy. All right. Anyways, that's a nice Warhammer reference there for our back in our days on Warhammer Age of Reckoning. That was one of our group buddies we used to go chop people up with. All right. Anyways.
Nice. My other favorite bit of this article is that we've got confirmation Staunch Defender has been destroyed, obliterated. That was really neat. I mean, as it probably should have been. And they gave us...
I'm sad. Like, my heart hurts.
Yeah. Anyway, Staunch Defender was a nice little Holy Within 9 bubble, +1 save. That,
did you hear about this all-out defense?
right, that's true. Yeah, at this point, may not matter a whole lot. Yeah.
We had the first event at our equivalent to Warhammer World, which is a fraction of the size, and they don't design the game there, and no GW staff work there. But we had our equivalent Warhammer World event, and it was won by a mixed arms Stormcast army, I think with Staunch Defender. So in the early version 3 meta, if you don't have a high output of mortal wounds, you're not getting through that army. So I'm not sad to see it go. I'm sure there'll be other buffs in there that step up and replace it. But as a starting point, this is a nice article because it doesn't say anything to me about we're adding new battle tactics, and it doesn't say anything to me about we're changing the way that this army plays the core rules. Like, I'm happy with them mucking around with the counts as mechanic, because obviously every army's 5 wound models are already counting as 2, and monsters are already counting as 5. This is a design space we know, and that we know works. And as a starting point, I mean, we obviously haven't seen the whole book. It's nice that what they've shown us so far looks like it sort of fits into the broader ecosystem.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well said. They gave us a little bit on Karzai Discards. Yeah, this cool rule Fires of Vengeance. Each time this unit destroys, so that's the red dragon of the 2 big ones that we're getting. Each time this unit destroys an enemy unit, you can apply the relevant effect below. Enemy unit was a hero monster, add 1 of the attack characteristic, and melee weapons used by this unit for the rest of the battle. Wound characteristic of 3 or more. It was not a hero monster, add 1 to run and charge rolls. So kind of, got a few different ways it's going to be able to buff itself up. That's kind of neat. And yeah, that was about it. So a few things. You guys, I would think we'll get the Sunday preview this week.
Yeah, I expect it, yes. Like, this Sunday should be the next Saturday you can pre-order for then da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
The question is, do we get everything all at once, or is it spread out over a couple weeks? Because you're going to get both the books, and you've got all the new dragons, and...
I think that we'll get Stormcast. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even going to predict that one. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. All the cruel boys, all everything. It's out there. So I expect it to be 2 weeks at least of full releases. So
Yeah, definitely. All right, good stuff. So we had one more, and then do a little bit on events after. Just wanted to mention Mr. Mephisto's Randathon 2 came to an end. 30 straight hours. He raised, and everybody involved raised, over $10,500 for Mental Health America, I think was the charity.
Yep.
And just extraordinary to see the community come together and do that. Yeah, it was amazing to watch some of that over the weekend. I know Vince, you did a little bit of.
Yeah, I got like a 4-hour block in. Pretty laid back by IMF's 30-hour standards.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. Just talked a lot of Warhammer. That's all it was. Just hanging out, chatting Warhammer, chatting everything in the world. So yeah, it was great. And shout out to the community. I now have to paint 2 models for people. That was 2 of the giveaways. Ironically, one of them was won by Martin Orlando, good painter Stormcast / Lumineth man, and the other one was won by the Lord of Death, the Hobby Bear, Brendan himself, the terror of the Soulbright Gavelords and recent winner of Circle City. So, yeah, there you go.
Does he have a model picked out for you yet, or do either?
He does. Yeah. He's gonna. They both already sent me. Like, they didn't mail it to me, but they told me what they wanted me to paint. So, should be fun.
Nice.
I have to do some kind of Bone Reapers thing. Okay.
Okay.
I've never painted one of those before, so because why would I collect that ultimately extremely boring army?
You're just so negative, man.
Take that, Bone
So
Reapers.
negative, isn't he, Tom? He really
so
is.
negative. I just don't understand it, man.
I know.
Maybe you need to take a break, man.
Indeed.
Take a side with yourself.
Sure. Indeed.
So I think most of the videos, the different segments, that Matt has started to upload them on YouTube. So yeah, folks should definitely get a chance to check some of them out. I watched some of your discussion with Ian. Ian hopped on from Just Play during that segment, so that was a lot of fun. And yeah, just I'm sure a lot of good content will come out of that. But yeah, I think it's really amazing to see. I mean, that's quite an accomplishment, and the amount of work that Meph and so many people put into it. It's really incredible. Yeah, so that's that. Let's talk about events.
All right, let me bring it up. Let's talk about our events that are happening. There it is.
Yeah.
The event calendar, August 2021. We got a packed calendar there.
Yeah.
Take a look, everyone. If you see an event in your area, hopefully, let's see. Are there any Australian events this weekend? Oh, there are. What's that going to look like? Like, Sam, what's the situation there?
It depends what state you're in. So New South Wales is in a hard lockdown for at least another month, maybe 6 weeks. They're not having any events. But the Victoria, where I am, we're the clearest at the moment. So I've got an event next Saturday, GCon 3, my first AOS 3 event, and I've been grinding with probably a C or a D tier army, and for the event I submitted 10 salamanders in Dracothian's Tail.
There you go. There you go.
I thought maybe they'll change it back to artillery, so I may as well make hay while the sun shines. So yeah, I'll play that next Saturday. And then at the end of the month I've got the Toowoomba Open, which is run by Gemma and Mick from the Failed Charge, and that's up in Queensland. So I'm headed up there with Chris Welfare and Simon Hall, who've both got AOS podcasts, because everyone over here is a content creator. So I'm really looking forward to that one. It should be heaps of fun.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, we got that one on there. And as always, folks, if you got any events, send them in to Dan in particular, Dan or me, AOSevents.org. He's got all the information, had some events in. Love to get all the ones that we can up there. And then, went ahead and added what we got coming up in September. So AOS Worlds, big championship, and I think there's a team championship that's part of it. So teams from around the world are going to be participating in that. We got Bruce City Brawl, Brendan's event, Facehammer, that same weekend of September 10th to the 12th.
It's a big
weekend. A lot of big
it's
events.
A blockbuster weekend
really
right there.
Yeah, 100%. Crossroads is going to be a good one. Yeah, a lot of good events happening in September. I did want to just try to quickly go through. We had 3 pretty good events that happened over this past weekend. Mancunian Carnage, The Lost and the Damned, and London Open. I think Mancunian was about 70 players, Lost in the Damned like 36, and London Open, I wasn't entirely sure on that one, maybe like 20, 25. So, Sam, did you get a game in over a tournament over the weekend?
No,
Probably...
not a tournament. Just a
Okay.
games day. No tournaments for me yet.
So let's start with the big one. We had Mancunian Carnage. This was 70 players. I think it was at Element Games with the Facehammer crew. So top 10, we had only a single 5-0, which, I mean, big headline coming out of the weekend was Tzeentch, in particular Archeon Tzeentch. Kind of no surprise there. I think 2 of the Tzeentch lists that took out all of these 3 tournaments, 2 of them were Archeon lists. I know at least one was Host Arcanum, maybe the other one was as well.
There were 2.
So,
Tzeentch won 3 events over the weekend. 2 were Host Arcanum, and I believe the other was Host Duplicitous.
Mm-hmm.
Host Duplicitous. Okay. And then we had, so top 10 for Mancunian. And we had Fabian Quinn with his Host Arcanum, Archeon Kairos, kind of fairly similar to what we had been seeing a lot on TTS. And
the terrible twosome there, Archeon and Kairos. They usually sneak a Demon Prince of Khorne on in there as well if they can, if the list can allow it, because then it's just like the ultimate shutdown experience. It's like, hey, did you want to charge anything this whole game? No, because you're not.
Yeah, the full list, just pulled it up here. Archeon, Kairos, Blue Scribes, Magister on disc, 10 Chirurg Acolytes, 2x3 Screamers, Cogs, Portal, and the enhancement, of course, was an extra spell, which has become a very popular kind of obvious choice for Tzeentch lists in particular. Bump up those summoning points to spam out those pinks or whatever. And it's a good list. We had 11 4-1s for Mancunian Carnage. Soulblight, Iron Jaws, 3 Seraphon, Sylvaneth, 2 Lumineth, Legion of the First Prince, Maw Tribe / BCR, and then Sun sneaking in there. I think Sun was around 10th. Yeah, any lists stand out to you guys with Mancunian that you saw?
I think the Fabian's list is an improvement on what was already a highly optimized list, and the change from 2 to 3 has obviously only enhanced that further. So in particular, things like taking the Magister on disc, getting a pre-game move, and now the change to the spell portal means they both need to be within 18 of the caster, not 18 of each other. So Kairos can backboard, you move forward 5, and you project a further 18 inches forward with his spell portal, meaning that he can basically take a character anywhere on the board turn 1. And then obviously getting 2 casts with everyone and an enhancement for an extra spell on everyone means he's doubling his fate points. So he's able to generate a unit of blue horrors every single turn. So even though the army doesn't start with bodies, over the course of the game, he might summon more wounds than your starting army has.
Right.
And it's just like, and then by the way, there's Archaon to deal with. So I think that list is brilliant. He's got a YouTube channel, Wargamer Online, and he does meta breakers. And they just did an episode last week on dealing with Gotrek. And he had like multiple plans for dealing with Gotrek and multiple plans for dealing with the other menaces in the tournament scene. So I saw in round 4, he played against Tom Maudsley with the what's the Balakor, Legion of the First Prince, and he was the only person to beat. Yeah, he was the only person to beat Tom. And I think, that was, for me, that was the tournament. When I saw the 70 lists, I thought either this Tzeentch list or the Legion list is going to win, and ultimately they've sort of played off in the penultimate round.
Nice. Yeah, that was a really good kind of control list that Tom put together. Yeah, Legion, looks like I don't have that one here, but yeah, great list.
The double the Iron Jaws list that was double.
Oh, that was
absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. Toby Meadows. Yeah, that's we talked about it. That was the exact list I've been running Vince for a while now. Yeah, double Cabbage, double Cheerleader, War Channers, Weird Knob, the 10 Brutes, and 2x3 Piggies.
Yep.
And he was in the Warlord for the CP and the extra artifact. So you can do it a 5-drop, or you can go the 4-drop Command Entourage and sacrifice the extra CP. He did Iron Suns, which is pretty standard, very, very common with, that reduces Rim by 1 on one of your cabbages, gives you the -1 to hit that first round. I think 4-1. I mean, yeah, we know cabbages are really turned on right now. We'll see how they look in the new book. Hopefully even better, or at least about the same, because they're quite good. Got those Chad cabbages out there. But I still think that's a very impressive showing with that list.
100%. It's great.
He does. He didn't have the minus. Yeah.
Like, it's not. The list has simple. What I love about Iron Jaws and a lot of the Destruction Forces is that it really lets you focus on play, especially early in 3.0 when there's a lot to remember. Your units are relatively simple in their things. They don't rely on a lot of tricks. They just hit like Mack trucks. You still have to use them correctly, right? Like, you can't just be like, I go forward, then I win, I guess. That's not like you're going to just lose. So you still need to use each piece correctly, but you can honestly focus on that in something like Iron Jaws a lot more, because you're not thinking about 30 other weird triggered special abilities that need to happen for your army. You're not trying to spend Lumineth pennies and then remember to move bravery minuses around and every other nonsense thing in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's fascinating. Like, one issue, we've heard a lot of us on the show, we talked about how seemingly the value of -1 rend has at least gone down. I mean, some folks are thinking it's dropped off a cliff. That Toby's army was an army of mostly -1 rend. He didn't even have the -3 artifact.
Sure.
Which I just found that really interesting. But I don't know who he played, what he played, but yeah, good on him for that showing with that list.
The key is that that's an army, and because of the nature of Iron Jaws and the fact that he has like 3 solid hammers, right, and the fact that they can all move a lot, the fact that they can then, if they get damaged, they move and like have good bonuses to charge, means he has a high percentage chance to get multiple hammers into fights at once. And Neg 1 Rend is valuable if you're going to be engaging across a wide front. Right? Because they can only really stack defenses on one thing. You know what I mean? So, like, beyond that, it's there. The trick is Neg 1 Rend does nothing if there's like a single piece you need to remove. If you have to remove thing X, right, to achieve a battle tactic or win, I guess I'll go like depending on what you're going on. Neg 1 Rend is basically the equivalent of nothing. Because that's just going to get zotted instantly.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, finest hour, etc. Yeah.
Slash 50 things.
Yep. Yep.
Not staunch
defender.
So not staunch defender anymore. Take that.
Yeah. We had Greg Shelton with Soul Blight. He had a 2-drop Castellite. Just want to mention that. So, we kind of there's been some conversation like how much do we think Nagash is up there with Archeon, Marathi, Gotrek? He had Nagash, Manfred, Vengorian Lord. Sort of, playing off of each other, especially that Vengorian Lord reducing Rim by 1 in relation to Gash, probably running them as a power pair. I don't know, but that would be my guess. Some Black Knights and 2x10 Skellies. So that's a cool list.
Is he on the level? Yes. But it doesn't matter because he's correctly pointed.
Correctly pointed, yeah.
Like, the issue with those 3 offenders is that they are vastly underpointed. Like, Gotrek, Marathi, and Archeon are just vastly underpointed. Right? Like, that's it. Nagash is what it looks like when you correctly point them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Archaon's issues are deeper seated than that. The versatility of Archaon, I don't think points will address. I think he warrants a new war scroll that considers how does coalition work and what buffs exist across a whole, quite literally like a whole faction minus Skaven.
Yep, I agree with that completely, Sam. And for me, like, Gotrek, I hear that. I know how destructive he is. But he's also on a 4-inch move. And, like, I know there's redeploy. I know there's these other tools. I don't know. It's real hard for me to buy into that. That he's vastly underpointed. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go vastly or with him or Marathi.
He's 100 points under.
There you
That's
go.
vastly.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
That's like on his point amount, that's vastly.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's
I mean, like,
and
we can argue about the various levels here, but they're all wrong. They're like, I don't want to get caught in the semantics of this, people. Like, I can already see the people in the chat are springing up with their own pets. Like, no, but I love this one, and see, it's really fine because of situation XYZ. Gotrek is slow, and Archeon is... there's no excuse for him, honestly. No. He has no weaknesses. And Marathi can't heal and everything. Like, I hear you. I get all that. That's why I'm saying Marathi shouldn't be 1,000 points. Okay, like I'm not saying that. She should be considerably cheaper than Archeon. She's not the same,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
My point is they're all undercosted for where they are. Okay? Like, yes, he's got a 4-inch move, but also objectives tend to be quite close together now and grouped around the center of the board,
Right.
and the board is smaller, and you can redeploy, and like he can get there and be functional in many rounds, and he insta removes basically any unit he touches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And so on
Archeon,
and so
I like your, yeah, Sam, your point about, I would agree. Archeon is in his own category right now. Having played all three of those, yeah, personally, yeah, I'd kind of put Marathi and Gotrek in the same category, a little undercosted, and we can debate how much they're undercosted. But yeah, Archeon is his own challenge. Last shout out, Matthew Davies got to do it. The new Lord of Trees, whatever we're going to call Matt Mallow. He, right out of the gates with some of the lists he talked about on Rob's show a few weeks back. 6 bows, 3x5 tree revs, Alarial, Warsong Revenant, Branch, Wraith, and Vengeful Skull Root, which is pretty amazing now when you can spam trees around the board and kind of get that Vengeful Skull Root doing these mortal wounds on multiple units right in your enemy's face. You can potentially double tap it. Portal, and what's the third one? Cogs, I think. Anyway, yeah, right out the gate, 4-1 with that list. So good on him with the trees.
Well done to Matthew. I am seriously concerned if that is the type of build that we're going to see rise to ascendancy in that book, because the investment in the terrain and the impact that the terrain has on the game are both problematic for different reasons. So hopefully they can figure out some way of making the book functional without it relying on you buying 8 kits and stopping your opponent from physically moving.
Longtime tree player here, Sam. I did my job. I was complaining about it vociferously and saying this is a terrible idea to allow us to spam trees to no end. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, let me just give the top 10 so we can get through this segment. Lost in the Dam, 36 players, top 10, 2 Tzeentch. We mentioned already the Tzeentch that won it. Lumineth, Soulblight, Gitz, JP Gannis, Legend with the Gitz army. Daughters of Cain, I think it was Marathi and probably usual Marathi and Snake Bows. Maw Tribes, Sons of Behemoth, Slanesh, we should talk about that one. And Cities of Sigmar coming in. I think the Slanesh looks like it was 9th. So Column Sinclair, Godseeker's Host, 3 wins, looks like 2 draws. Keeper of Secrets, Dexessa, Sigbal, the Mask, 2x20 Demonettes, 10 Demonettes, 3 Fiends in a 5-drop with Warlord, and doing the extra enhancement for the extra spell, or the enhancement for the extra spell. What do you think, Vince?
Great player, great list.
Great player, great list. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, a broken clock's right twice a day, homie. I don't know what to tell you.
And then finally, London Open, top 5, the Host Arcanum. We talked about Hagnar, that was it. Russell Taylor, that was the Marathi and the 15 Snake Bows. Yeah, going 4-1. One of the top lists, I'd say, that's out there right now. I think that, and then Slaves of Darkness, Soulblight, Legion of Night, and then a Taker Tribe, rounding out the top 5 there. So, like a lot of what we'd expect, but some really interesting results.
No, it's a wide meta,
far.
Especially in the beginning of 3.0. In your early doors, it's like it feels like it's going to be a pretty wide meta. There are problems in the nature of the god characters, but my honest answer is the nature of the current scenarios and how they play is that it's still almost always a game. Yeah, that's been my experience. So it's good. I think the meta is honestly way wider in 3.0 than it was before.
Yeah. So maybe just real quickly, Sam. I mean, Tom, you've been on a break. So, but yeah, Sam, what are your kind of overall, elevator summary takes on the meta so far, as you can tell? Like you just like healthy, terrible, mixed bag.
This could be the 3-hour show. This could
right,
even need to get into Skaven on that question. Yeah, look, we've got a teams event coming up in October this year, Runax teams, and for that we've decided we want to do well. So in order to do well, we're trying to determine what the top 4 lists are in the meta, and we've just been trying to go as hard as we can. So trying to run things at absolute filth to tease that out, and in doing that, it gives you really good insight into what the prevailing threats are going to be. And yesterday, I played a game against 120 zombies, 20 Graveguard, which could be buffed up to be a blender, Vengorian Lord, 10 Dire Wolves, Gorslav, and 2 Necromancers, and obviously the Vampire for the +1 attack on the big blobs of zombies. And we played for 3.5 hours, and we played 3 turns. So
wow.
It's sort of like there are these builds out there where you're never going to get through 120 zombies returning with 2 ways of coming back, and the whole army can do mortal wounds, and it can fight twice, and it does a movement in my movement phase, and it does a 6-inch pile in, and then it does a subsequent 6-inch pile in, and that I think is problematic. Like against a lot of armies, that will just auto win. Equally, I've been running the 10 salamanders to see if that's a list that's going to be viable, which I think it is. I think it one-shots Archaon. It's one of the few things in the game, because you get an opportunity in the hero phase to go, do the Geminids go off, and does the Starseer spell go off? And if either of those things get through Archaon's defenses, he's going to be -1 save and potentially -1 save and can't all out defense. And those sorts of things, I think if you took that zombie list, if you took the Zench lists that won on the weekend, if you take the 10 Sallies into a normal field, there's a really good chance you ruin 5 people's weekend. So it's sort of like there are lots of opportunities in the meta to run lists which are the incredibly strong lists. I think are frustrating to play against, because they're either Lumineth with an hour-long hero phase, or they're zombies that you physically can't get through in 5 turns, if you can even play 5 turns, or the power that they're able to project in terms of the salamanders or some of the Zench lists that spam mortal wounds mean that the ascendant builds are also the ones that are worse to play, and typically ascendant builds are popular. So I think that's problematic. But I don't know. I think over the overall health of the system, I think this is an improvement on AOS 2, and I'm enjoying the nuance and the challenge of all of the different variables you have to control in a game. So I think that the short answer is I like the system better, but I think it's prone to being exploited more than AOS 2 was.
Yeah,
I don't know if that resonates with anyone else, or
no. I think think you're dead on there. Yep.
Yeah. All right, Vince, I'm going to shut up. I'll give you your show back.
That's fine. Let's go. Pick of the week, next section. It's all right. We got to keep moving, because we got to have time to talk Skaven, buddy. All right, pick of the week. Sam, you're the guest. Start us off.
Okay. I've chosen 2 podcasts. So my friends sort of criticize me and call me a boomer. And I haven't transitioned yet into this medium of video. So I've chosen 2 podcasts. I usually listen to them when I'm driving or going out and doing something or whatever. So they're a good multitasking thing, right? The first one I've chosen is Brunax Radio. So it's a relatively new podcast hosted by 2 blokes up in Queensland. So Gabe and Matt. And I listen to it, right? And it just feels like you're having that chat you have on the Saturday night of a tournament. You're talking about like, how did your game go and what's happening? And I think they're just really awesome representatives of the Australian wargaming scene. The way that they do it is really level-headed. They don't have any like awful or obnoxious hot takes. And the thing that I really like about it is that they don't buy into that. Sometimes it's easy to be negative about something you're passionate about, and they don't really buy into that. The vibe is positive without, I don't think you could ever accuse them, of being GW, whatever word you want to include there.
Sure.
But the overall tenor is really positive, and I love hobby, so I want to hear positive messages. I'm really enjoying that, and they're learning AOS 3, and they're going on that journey with them has been really great.
Awesome.
Gabe's been playing Slanesh and Nurgle, and Matt's been playing Khorne, and I don't think any of those 3 factions are strong, and they're just trying to work it out, and I love that. I think it's really cool.
Nice.
Then the next one I won't talk as long on, which is just Party at the All Points. My friend Tristan recently joined Party at the All Points. Anything Tristan does, you should check out, because he is a genuine hero of a human, and he's joining 2 of my other friends, Bud and Dayton as well. So three mates on a cast. That's just a shout out for friends, isn't it? But I'll do it anyway.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Sweet.
Tyler, what do you got? What's your picks?
Yeah. So there was a nice write-up by the winner of the London AOS Open on the London GT website. Just wanted to give a shout out to that. He goes through his list and a little breakdown, goes through his games, just a very thoughtful write-up on his choices in the list, how he played it, and so on. I won't even try to pronounce his name with my Jim Bob American mouth. So let's go with second one, Age of Sigmar, Battle Tactics. Yeah, Goonhammer had a nice article on battle tactics in General's Handbook 2021. Just a good breakdown of the battle tactics, thoughts on how you can try to deny, thoughts on how you can get them, when you might try to go after which ones, sort of sequencing. We've all talked about how critical battle tactics are and, trying to get up in that little mini game. Really, really nice article. Those are the two.
Very nice. Tom, do you have a pick of the week?
Some things change. Other things do not.
Gotcha. That's fine. My pick of the week is going to be for the aforementioned Rantcast. It is going up on YouTube in the 2-hour blocks as it was hosted, so you can actually watch it in digestible 2-hour shows. I mean, I would highly recommend the 2-hour blocks with me on them because, of course, I think those are exemplary. But in honesty, it was all wonderful. I can't wait till he gets the late night ones loaded up. I did watch some of the overnight where it was Halo. I do want to it's not, this one's not up yet, but do watch Meph's channel. Halo did a tier list of his tier lists.
Brilliant.
So it was fantastic. It was way late at night. I don't remember when I was watching. Maybe God, I was watching 3 a.m. or something, whatever. It was fantastic. I was dying. So yes, it's all the tier lists he's done on his stream. He broke down the quality of those and ranked the ranks. So Meph's channel will be linked down below, so you can go check those out.
That is high quality entertainment there.
It was pretty genius. The tiering of the tiers. Yes, we've gone full meta. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So with that, gentlemen, let's get into some hobby time. Sam, what have you been working on, buddy? What's been on your hobby table? What have you been doing?
Last night I built 72 skinks.
Nice.
And that took me about 90 minutes.
Sure.
And then I built one fine cast slam, and that is not finished after 90 minutes. The cleaning and the scraping and the fixing of little bubbles or whatever. I never want to buy another fine cast model. So I've got, what have I got to go? I've got the Astrolith Bearer in fine cast, and I've got 5 more camo skinks in fine cast. And when they're done, that's it. No more. Never again.
Yeah, it is a range in need. It's funny that what we're talking about today in Skaven and Seraphon, 2 classic enemies of each other from the old world, both with huge oversized ranges. Both are in desperate need of an update. I would love it if they just next summer had some big event and just relaunched both of them at once through some big box celebration situation. That would be a hot girl summer right there for me. Let me tell you what, it's a hot rat summer. So yeah, Tyler. Obviously, you're not painting anything. You've been getting some games in.
Yeah, I got a slog of a game against another Legions of the First Prince list. Those lists are so technical, and it's just one of those that you make little mistakes. I was playing Daughters of Cain, very very friendly with only 10 snake bows, very friendly. Yeah, I think it was 20. Friendly version. 20 witches, 10 witches, trying out the 20, Hagnar, obviously. Medusa. I mean, anyway, nothing that you wouldn't expect. So it was,
It's running 8 avatars of Cain. Got it. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what that two, man. I'm 2 in Hagnar. That's a thing. No, I love Avatars of Cain. Underrated by themselves. Absolutely underrated.
No bad units in the book. Sure, I get it. We get it.
No bad units in the book.
We all get it. You dangling your worst unit in the book as still being good over the rest of us.
Yeah. Slog of a game, but pulled it out by 1 point. And it was a good one. Yeah, it's always fascinating playing Legion of the First Prince, all the different tech that they have. And yeah, because they can go offensive control, defensive control, very toolbox, really, really interesting armies. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Very nice. Tom, what are you painting right now.
I'm not painting anything.
Yes, you are. You were.
I am working on my my KO Bugman's Rangers mixed weapon Thunderer KO unit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you can't see it, but
there he is. There he is. I saw him up close when I just killed him. Oh, that's actually the one guy who lived, I think, is what you have in your hand.
No, the one guy that lived is over here still.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom and I were playing. We got a game in. I piloted Skaven just so he'd have some fresh hot takes for him, so that way he'd have some experience with it. I've gotten lots of 3.0 games in with Skaven, but I'm always getting it. I'm down for one more. Like playing Skaven in 3.0 is like Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. It's always just popping one more. Myself, my hobby time, boy, it's been packed. I have been working on a lot of stuff, like so much stuff, and it's secret, and I'm not going to tell you about it. So that's my hobby time. But believe me, I've painted a lot of stuff. Shh, you'll see in the future. Okay.
Wonderful.
So there we go.
Don't believe it. He's not painting it all right now.
I'm not at the moment. I mean, it's not a lie. I'm not at this second. All right. And I got a game in with Tom, so that was fun. I also got a game in this weekend against Lumineth. And there I used my... that was tournament practice. So that was a good game. Managed to take out the Lumineth. So always... Anytime I'm killing elves, it's generally a good day. All right.
Tom, was that your first 3.0 game? Second? How many?
Maybe. It's not my first one, but it was my first real one.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Say that.
Okay, there you go. Yep.
And, yeah.
Right on. Well, we're at an hour, so I want to ask you for a 15-minute take on AOS 3 and Destroy.
Is what I would say. Like, there's just a lot of mental load, and some armies are going to be better suited for it than others.
Sure. I felt bad for Tom. He was like remembering, wait, okay, this unit has reroll ones to hit, and this unit's reroll ones to hit and wound, and like, okay, I think I'm going to spend some Aether Gold here, and wait, when do I need to use the command point? I'm like, when you attack, it's just like, it's a lot, right? And for those armies that have those kind of triggered stuff, it just becomes so much.
Yeah.
No, I will say with Skaven, I've repped them enough that it's all internalized, right? I mean, that's the other key. If you've got a complex army, get in the reps. Because I'm, like at this point, I'm just like, okay, start of the turn, the checklist fires, down. So,
I think redeploy has been the worst analysis paralysis for me of the new edition. The optionality with redeploy.
Sure. It's, I will say, generally, I think through it pretty fast. But there was one movement phase in the game where I was like,
yeah.
You know what the solution
is? Good.
Don't play anybody with melee.
Sure. Yeah, I mean against KO, it's like. Okay. I'm
like, pass, shoot. Okay, done.
Yeah.
Just do all shooting. Is Tom shouting into Vince's mic? He's talking at a slightly raised pitch into my mic, yes.
Yes.
So we don't echo or anything. Okay. Gentlemen, are we ready? It's Skaven time. Let's do this. All right. So, bringing up the presentation, Skaven in AOS 3.0. Before I get into my summary, Sam, you've gotten a lot of reps in with Skaven, given with a very unorthodox list. But what's your take on Skaven? What drew you to him? What do you like about Skaven 3.0? What do you think about him?
I love the Skaven lore. I think the Skaven are the most interesting political and economic society in the mortal realms, as they were in the world that was. I love the Council of 13, the Blight City, the way that the Graces have these grand machinations. I think that they're just awesome. I'm particularly drawn to Clan Eshin, probably because they, of all of the clans, are the sneakiest and most political, and that they have the greatest influence over the broad story arc, what's happening in the mortal realms, whether that's, political assassinations, whether that's knowing the exact location of hidden-eyed net cities, whatever it might be. There was this piece of narrative back in 8th edition Warhammer that said that that the clan Eshin were the only clan to ever infiltrate Tzeentch, and that they actually had more knowledge about the old world. They had more knowledge about the old world than Zench, and I know that they'd also, infiltrated Null, and they'd taken all of this information from the Empire, and it just to me that always resonated with me, and I always thought it was fantastic. And then the way that they work on the table is that they privilege quantity in terms of the number of bodies and number of shots. The quality is awful, right? But this whole idea of just having all of these redundant bodies and all of these buffs that you can still stack now, even in AOS 3, where they've tried to limit buff stacking. To me, that's a really fun way to play. It's really tactically challenging, and it's really, really high risk. If you make a mistake, you just lose. And I like playing like that on occasion. Like I definitely wouldn't try and do a whole season with these guys, because there's going to be too many times that you make one crucial error, even a small one, and then that has a really significant detrimental effect on your overall plan. But super rewarding to get wins in with them, and super fun to paint and play. And I think that the book is obviously incredibly deep. So while I started with Eshin, I am pivoting through and looking at all the other stuff as well. And everything that I've used so far has been fun on the table. And I feel like it's been fun for my opponent as well. And that's a really nice place to be at the start of an edition.
Yeah, I love it. Tom, you just played against it. What's your take on Skaven?
They have a lot of wounds. Like, a lot.
Sure.
And against some types of armies, that's a real big detriment. And so chewing through all that can be a real issue. I still think that they have lots of pieces that are actually really useful in what seems to be a lower model, lower wound game. So that's what I would say.
Yep. Love it. Tyler, your thoughts?
Yeah, they've been one of the ultimate toolbox armies for practically, seemingly forever. That when the book came out, it was a fantastic toolbox. It still is. You can't get everything though, as far as I can tell. Which is what you need with really good toolbox armies. Not allow them to get all the tools. Yeah, I like that they seem to work for a broad spectrum of player types and interests. Like if you're just interested in crazy nonsense happening, you can really lean into that. If you want a toolbox army, you can lean into that. If you want low model count, you can do that. High model count, you can do that. You want to be really competitive, you can do that. It's like it's got all of these seemingly different options. Like I said, it's a deep bench. Despite giving you crap all the time about your nonsense ratcast, I do find Skaven utterly fascinating. And I am really, really hoping it gets a model range update in the relatively near future. It desperately needs it for some of its units. It's always been one of the most, intriguing, cool IPs for Games Workshop in my mind. They're great.
Yeah. I agree with everything that's been said, especially Sam. Thank you for bringing up the point about just like the lore and the aesthetic and the feel of the army. One of the reasons I want a 3.0, a new version build of this so much is because I want to see. Skaven always had the crazy technology, and now we live in a world where the technological sort of the Mortal Realms have pushed the technology forward and stuff like KO. And I really want to see what new crazy Skaven technology looks like, right? Like when you turn those miniatures designers loose and just say, go nuts, right? What does Scryer look like? What do the new monsters that Molder has created look like, right? What does a new range of Eshin Ninja Rats look like, right? Expanding out that range. So there's just so much potential here. And honestly, I'd love to see them cull some stuff from the range too. Like there's just some things they could cull out and it would be fine. Like they could get rid of the Doom Flare. Like, look, it's fine. Just let it go. Just it's never been good. Just let's let it go. Yeah. Okay. So like it's not that there's no losers in this army. My summary looks like this. It is an incredibly varied army with lots and lots of potential. By the way, I built this off the Cities of Sigmar presentation, and I was surprised by how many subheaders I didn't have to change. Because there is a lot of similarity to something like Cities or Seraphon. I think all of those three armies all kind of sit in the same space in what they can do. But there are some notable differences. Like, there's a long list of units with potential. They have very strong, like, I'm going to say sub-factions. What I really mean is, like, they don't actually have sub-factions. In Skaven world, what that means is, like, your clan rules, right? Which are very potent. And like you can mix and match all of those together. I actually think Skaven is my favorite sub-faction build. I'm using this in like extreme quotation marks, right? Because it's kind of driven by the hero and then what that can do. So
it's interesting. I think Vince, the cities analogy is a really good one, and that this book, cities and possibly in a different way, slaves to darkness, that they utilize that the best.
Right.
In terms of being really deep, versatile books that can then play particular ways depending on the choice you make at the very start of list building, which is what sub faction is this. And I love that the Skaven aren't constrained by the typical sub factions that exist elsewhere. I love being able to have a really versatile list because of that. Right,
like the way you pay it off is that you always have to have clan rats and storm vermin if you want versatility, right? Like, or because that's your battle line, period. Right, like, that's where it begins and ends. If you're not in mono other thing, in which case your versatility is like restricted down to nothing. So it's an interesting counterplay there. I actually really like how they balance that, because it does mean that like you are going to need to chew up some portion of your army with these troops, but happily those troops do have a purpose. Like they can serve a purpose in the game, which is cool. So yeah, good hero monsters, good selection of wizards and priests, lots of ranged output potential, versatility, can still run hordes with ease, better hordes than they've ever had in Age of Sigmar. Period. Like they still they're the second best horde unit in the game right now, and probably the best
zombies number one
horde army. Yeah, zombies are number one.
Yeah.
But overall, they're still a better horde army because like zombies are cool because they can recurse and stuff like that. But your rats can actually survive and do interesting other tactical things like retreat and charge built in and stuff like that. So there's whatever.
In a vacuum, if you're going 1x60 or 2x60 clan rats, what's your first choice for the Battleshock community? Is it like the Bell? Is it the Vermin Lord?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
fair.
I think your first choice is that you've got options, and a lot of other armies can't say that. That's the thing, because there's an artifact in there as well. You can have just a little Gracier with the snout grovel robes. There's a spell. There's 4 different ways at least, on top of your inspiring presence. So they're able to do it in a way that other armies aren't, and they're able to turn off the Horrorghast and the Cathalar and those sort of really strong abilities that other people build their army around, which is great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, in the game we ran today, I had double layering of the Battleshock community, right? Like, I had a Bell and the Warp Seer, and I just fire off the Warp Seer command ability every round, because on a 5-up, I'm going to get that command point back. So it's like, why not? I'm never using all these command points that you can generate, because the Warp Seer himself can generate more, right? So it's just like, he can just pay it back, just en masse. And so like, people are just Battleshock immune on top of Battleshock immune, so your hordes don't drop, right? Like they're just you've got to do the wounds, period, right?
Yeah,
because it's also quite hard. Like, if you have both the Bell and the Warp Seer, good luck removing both of those in a turn. Right, like they're both decent save with an after save units.
13 wounds on the Bell.
13 wounds on the Bell, 12 on the Vermin Lord. The Vermin Lord has his own built-in +1 all the time. Right, and then obviously he can also Mystic Shield himself quite easily and have his best day ever and use the all-out defense, and so he can pretty quickly be like ignoring Ren 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So he's just gonna stick around. And by the way, they're both high bravery things as well. So like the Vermin Lord can just sit there and heal himself. Like, he's bravery 10. He's a big demon. So anyways, mobility and good mortal wound potential. It's a long list of strengths. Now the key is it's hard. It's not like you can fit all of that into one force. That's the trick, right? The weaknesses is current points mean you can't have it all. I would also state that in this world, this is what I say: Skaven are the most fair current army in the game. I stand behind that statement. Okay, there's no Gotrek, there's no Morathi, there's no Archeon, right? But, so you don't have like a god thing you can fall back on and win. You don't have a Teclis. All that kind of nonsense. But you're also not, and like the Abyss of Chaos players out there, or like Gitz or somebody are looking at me going like, we don't have that crap either, right?
Yeah.
And I'm
Nighthawk.
like, yes, I agree. My point is that's the perfect mix. Where they sit right now feels like where Army should be aiming for in 3.0. No easy win no easy win buttons. Tough choices to make in list building, but the versatility to lean into lots of different builds, do some mixed arms, right? So it can be tough for them to answer the God dilemma. Like I fought he had Gotrek in his force we used today. And I had a guy with curse. I had clan rats. Like he came into a unit of clan rats where I was going to be able to curse him the next round. The clan rats there was probably still 55 of them when he came into them or something like that. 53 of them, I think, at that point, just because of a few errant casualties. And they had Bless on. The priest had actually used the 6-up ward. So these are rats with a 6-up ward, and I had given them all out defense.
And
right?
Death Frenzy.
And they had Death Frenzy. So they were like dying and swinging back on Gotrek, right? And so I hit Gotrek with like 77 attacks out of those clan rats.
Oh,
and
wow.
I did 3 wounds to him, and I had 7 rats left after he was done. Now, that was actually a win for me. Because Gotrek was going to heal next round, but the priority was mine, so I was just going to retreat and hold the point, because Gotrek still made 2 models, right? So, but it's just tough to bring him down. Now, if I could have gotten to a situation where, sure, I could have cursed him, and then, then had all the clan rats stack him, sure, we'd probably spike him like a football, But, that was the best case scenario for clan rats. They had every buff I could ever want, and he still blew them off the table, right? With basically nothing in return. Like, he took 3 wounds from 70-some attacks, most of which were on, 3s.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. One point that comes up, a lot of us thought that this game seemed to be pushing more MSU. And I mean, there's certainly that pattern is clearly there in some ways. And yet we've seen plenty of instances of these big units and ways, Rally, Emerald Live Swarm, etc., stacking buffs on a particular unit, where there seems to still be quite a bit of value in a lot of cases of these bigger size units that we're still seeing a fair amount in the game right now.
It's a DPS check.
Yeah.
Can you do enough damage to chew through these armies? And ultimately, they will be gatekeepers in tournaments, just from the standpoint that some armies just can't chew through them. I was struggling to get through them, and this is my higher DPS list that I brought.
Right.
Yeah. And
what then happens is you need to assess the direction that the meta's taking as well, because in a predominantly shooting meta, bigger units that you can stack save buffs and those sort of things on become better because they get to utilize it against multiple units shooting at them. But in a predominantly combat meta, having more small units is better because you can set up screens and block them, and they're not able to project their power. So, and the Skaven can do both of those things super effectively. So that's why they're in a really good spot, even if the meta does sort of pivot and change over time.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely agreed.
So I have one potential asterisk on the fair and the no easy win button, and Vince, you probably know what it is. We discussed before, but I can hold off on the Storm Fiends discussion if you want.
Yeah, I mean the Storm Friends is part of it, right? I don't think 9 Storm Friends is ultimately a winning strategy. I think it's too easy to get that. I'm highly sus of Death Star type builds in general in this edition, because we already talked about how that it's generally easy to counter Death Stars. Now, they're a shooting Death Star, which is better than a melee Death Star. I think melee Death Stars are really bad. They're a shooting Death Star. And, sure, if you get all your buffs off, which, by the way, is hard. You're relying on spellcast buffs there. Spellcast buffs off a guy who is not the best spellcaster. It's okay. He's not bad.
I don't know. He goes +1 to cast from his Warpstone.
Sure.
He goes reroll to cast, even better. Reroll to cast from his Warpstone and +1 to cast from the Warp Gnaw. So, the Gnaw Hole. So, what is it? A 6 with a reroll.
Yeah, it's not... I didn't say... Yeah, he's not the worst. I'm just saying, there are casters out there, there are armies out there that will just look at you and go, no. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Host Arcanum in turn 1, 3, and 5 is just going to be and I dispel that. Automatically. No rolls. That's what I do. Right? I just get to pick 1 spell a turn. What's their 1 spell they're going to shut off in turn 1? Tough decision. The thing that's going to let you wreck my face. Right? And when you turn off more warp power, there the efficacy of that unit really does change a lot. Okay. Now you can still spark them and get the bonus damage, of course, and like there's still stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to. I'm not trying to say it's not like it is a scary, scary unit. But the 9 Stormfriends also requires you to be in only Scryer.
Yeah.
And there are just like that is such a limited build as for the slice of what you get out of there, other than your one Master Clan General. That, like,
Benjamin didn't have much in his list that I was seeing. I saw that. Yeah.
It really compromises your ability to complete the battle tactics as well.
Right.
Because you're investing 1,000 points between the unit and the buffing pieces. Just to get to a particular point and kill things, and killing things is less valuable than it's been in previous editions. So yeah, I don't like that build at all. I much prefer 6 and then you get a screaming Balin, or 6 and then you take some Jazals or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter what the pieces you take to complement it are, but I think 6 is still enough to kill a lot of medium-sized units, which the meta is progressively seemingly moving towards, because obviously there's that reinforce and double reinforce limitation. And then you're giving up so much by just being Scryer. You're not able to get a priest in. You're only able to get one Master Clan unit. You have units of 5 acolytes as your battle line, and obviously then you're seeding this battle trait where the secondary where the person says, I'm going to kill a battle line unit. It's like, okay, 5 guys with a 6 up save. They'll be a free 2 points this turn.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. So that's why I don't think it's the easy win button. Because, like, I understand, I'm not doubting, Ben did really well with it. Benjamin, sorry, did really well with it. And, Mr. Sava's a great player. Like, a truly great player. I'm pretty sure I could hand him almost anything, and he'd go for 1. Right?
Yeah.
Like, he is truly an amazing player. And I just think but under most normal circumstances, there is a massive Achilles heel, and the second someone plants an arrow in it, you're done. Like, I just think edge shooting like that is a bad way to get a 5-0. Like, that's what it comes down to.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I've seen that's out there that, like, at least stands out as, like, a smooth brain pointing at that thing. Whereas, I mean, I would tend to guess, like you said, it's got counters. But yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like you can build lists that are quite strong. But I'm not really seeing anything, as you said, that's like, there's not an Gash, there's not an Archeon. So yeah, the 9 Storm Fiends was the only thing that, we talked about that group, like 30 Iron Drakes, 30 Sentinels, those kind of like Death Star units that are having an impact early on in 3.0. Like, what might be the equivalent, the single point equivalent of that in the Skaven book that you can point to and think that might be a problem? That's the only thing that I've heard of so far.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, let's do an exercise. So what do acolytes look like?
Bad.
They're capped at 15 now. So you could go 15 plus 1 to hit, plus 1 to wound, re-rolling to hit and wound, plus 1 damage, and then you've thrown all of your army's buffs onto that one small unit. I mean, they've got run and shoot, but still the range isn't great.
Yeah.
And it's short range. And by the way, they die to literally a stiff breeze.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, they are on no save, no bravery. Like, they better be. And by the way, in that Scryer build, it's actually much harder to fish out your battle shock immunity. You can still do it, but then you have to commit to like one specific thing to fish out your battle shock immunity.
Yeah.
Right. Not that they're ever going to live anyways. Like 15, if somebody looks at them funny, they're all dead. So. And like battle shocking your 9 Storm Friends if they're not near a battle shock immune thing is actually a problem.
Big time. They don't have it. They don't have a champion. They need a babysitter at all times.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Somebody needs to smarten up one of those brain rats on their backs. Make it a champion smart, I guess. I want the old warlord on Bonebreaker back. That's what I want. The claw lord riding a giant armored rat ogre. Bring that back. Let's see a new sculpt for that. They love returning to old concepts and reimagining them. So hey, GW sculptors who watch this, when you do it, please give me back a claw lord on Bonebreaker. That could be amazing.
So they don't have the Gash, they don't have the Archaon. They have got someone, and maybe this is better place for characters later, but I'll just say it now. The Forge World Vermin Lord comes in at 270 points, and he can do 5 damage 6 attacks at 2s and 2s, and he can break coherency, and he's a 2-caster. Like, I don't know what his longevity is. Maybe that stuff gets written out of the game shortly, but for now, the Warp Lord Vermin Lord he's not at the god level, but at only 270 he's excellent economy, and I would say probably the strongest thing available to the army.
Yeah, he's so good, which makes me think there's no way he's going to stick around. They're going to put out some kind of points change for those Forge World models or whatever. I trust those Forge World things as far as I can huck the entire Forge World catalog. So, all right, let's talk about tactics. The general tactics with this army. We've already mentioned some of them. Widely varied strategies that require dedication is my answer for sort of the general way the army you think about it. So one is just oops all shooting. Again, it's just like it's there. You can do it in a lot of different ways. Lots of things in this army. You can have guns. You can have very minimal battle line that don't have shooting but are just there to be fodder for the shooting, or you can just go all shooting if you want in certain builds. So that's one. The swarm. The swarm is the body play, the body block play. You're just flooding. You're just flooding and making them all battle shock immune. 1 to 2 units of 60 packs of rats and the tools to make them immune to battle shock, right? You can go even farther, by the way, if you want. Like, it is extremely feasible to fit another significant chunk in on top of that, right? Like, that is to say, you could go 60, 60, 20, right? That is a viable build. That absolutely fits in the reinforcement points, right? And that's just like 140 wounds in clan rats.
I played
What are
today.
Yeah.
Wow. What are 60 points wise right now?
360 points. I think that sounds right off the top of my head.
360.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because it's 120 for 120 for 20, and so 360 for 60. Fantastic, fantastic deal.
That's quite tasty.
So yeah, I'm in like Flynn for that. I think some people are upset because you used to get 40 for 200. Because the horde bonus thing, it was like 120 and then the horde. And I'm like, maybe they're 130 now. Maybe it's 390. I don't even remember. It's a great deal, whatever it is. I'm sorry, I just built a list. I don't have the points in front of me.
Sure, no worries.
So like 10-point change. Like
130. 130. So
130.
390.
390.
Yep.
Thank you. Very good.
Okay.
I thought so. That was itching at the back of my head. Still a great deal, right? Like 390 for 60 wounds. That's a fantastic ratio. And remember, these dudes are all retreating and charging. They're only on a 6-up, but they have a built-in +1 to save as long as they get 10 models. So it's really easy. Like, that's just all the time. So so if you spark the all-out defense, it's like you're ignoring a rend of 1 and you're still on a 5-up, right? They're a great recipient of Bless, as I mentioned earlier, from the Priest, where you can suddenly give it, giving 60 guys a 6-up ward actually does something. Like, that's great on a massive pack like that of low armor units. So there's just tools. There's tools, right? This one. Okay. Mixed arms. This is sort of your traditional classic mixed Skaven. Clan rats to block, rat ogres with upgrades to hammer, Jezzails or a warp lightning cannon to shoot, vermin lord to lead. This is basically what's on font tonight. Right.
Junk in the front, party in the back.
Yeah,
correct. The Jezzails are quite nice because they take up an artillery slot. So in some of those battalions, you're not using, like if you want it to be a low drop army, for instance, the Jezzails don't eat into one of your 5 troop choices for that 1-drop battalion, which is it's a nice little thing for them to get. Obviously, previously you could take 9 of them and throw all the buffs on. Disappointing you can't do that anymore, but 6s are still really good.
Yeah. 6s of Jezzails will really do a lot of work, especially if they happen to have, obviously, like in all these things, there is sort of a power pair mentality here, right? Like if you've got those guys, you're going to have a warlock around to be giving them buffs, to be sparking them, to be doing all the quintessential things they need to do. And then what I call edge shooting wackiness. That is
my wheelhouse.
The Smorgan play. Yeah.
This is the Smorgan play. So this is the Eshin swarm of Night Runners and Gutter Runners, which are just like outrageously cheap for what they can do. And the bodies you can put on the table of like pre-game moving, ambushing nonsense. The Molder Menagerie, where like look post Broken Realms, that Molder stuff is legit scary now, and you can pack a lot of upgrades onto those things.
What's the highlights on why it's scary?
So you could go 6 wounds with a 4-up save, so you count as 2 models, and it's changing the save value. It's not adding +1 to your save. So
Right.
you go 4+ save, then you whack a Mystic Shield, and you're all out defense, and you've got a 3+ ignoring Rem 1. That's brilliant. They've got capacity to heal. They've got buffs within Molder for like +1 to hit and stuff, so they can still do some damage. And then the other version, I think, has more attacks and
it goes up to
possibly
6
greater
attacks and has built-in reroll charges.
Reroll charges, that's right. So it's just really good. And then there is a speedy version as well, but I don't think I'd ever pivot to the speedy one.
Yeah, the one that makes them faster is kind of, because they're already fast enough, like they're fine. Yeah. So the like edge shooting is fun. There's a lot of like, there's a scryer list that's a weird edge shoot list. Like they generally are in the specific clan wackiness, right?
What kind of lists would you guys expect to see with the Molder Menagerie? Like, what are we looking at?
There you'd have a clutch of Master Molders, probably a normal unit of Pack Masters running around because it's 6 wounds for 60 points. And these 3 little idiots who can walk around and make Rat Ogre's Bravery 10. You want enough so that you've got like 2 hell pits and at least 2 good sized blocks, because that your Rat Ogres become battle lines, so they can go to 6, right?
Oh, cool.
So you got 2 6-packs of Rat Ogres is generally going to be your reinforcement points, and then 2 hell pits, and then stuff like that. You're definitely gonna invest in a big Master Clan general, like maybe a Thankful or something like that can be a pretty good fit into there, since he's Master Clan. Your Rat Ogres actually are one of the few things that don't have a bravery problem, because if they're near a Master Molder or any of the Pack Masters, they're Bravery 10.
I think just a quick shout out to the Rat Swarms that are Bravery 20.
Yes.
I think they're the highest bravery in the game.
Yes. Yeah, they do go to Bravery 20. Because they just double all Molder units' bravery. So.
Yeah, you can take Storm Fiends in Molder as well, because they're both Molder and Scryer, which to your earlier point, Vince, when they do look at redoing the book, amalgamations like that where there's a hybrid between the different clans, I think is a nice design space for them to explore.
100% agreed. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the specifics. Okay. So, time stamping. All right. Let's talk heroes. These guys have great heroes. Like, we're going to start on the quality monster heroes, big heroes. Your big hero, Skaven. Okay. We'll get to the smaller utility guys in a minute, but let's start on the big boys. I've identified 3 here. Vermin Lords. Probably, like, there are certainly standouts amongst the Vermin Lords, but they all have some kind of value for the most part. The guy actually in the picture here is one of my faves, but not my absolute tippy tops. This is the Deceiver in the picture. He's choice for many reasons. Thankful, who is the best porcupine in the game, period, bar none. Like, you cannot charge him with any unit of any size and expect to live, or charge near him. Like, he just incinerates anything, assuming he's built sensibly. And then the old Gracier on Screaming Bell. You get a fun bell roll every turn, which can actually do stuff sometimes. When you crack off and give your whole army -1 to be hit, it's pretty great. Summon a Vermin Lord, pretty great. Do a bunch of D3 mortal wounds to the enemy army, pretty great. Right? Like, there's just a lot of good stuff that comes out of that belt. Give all your casters an additional +1 to cast, pretty great. And it is itself a double caster, so its only downside is that it needs rats to move so it can get stranded. They're all solid. Sam, what's your Vermin Lords? Let's talk them. First of all, do you rate them? And who are your Vermin Lord picks? Who's your top draft pick?
If I had one pick in the draft, I'd take Screech Vermin King. He's my preferred Vermin Lord, and that's a recent change. So. Wow. He is the Swiss Army knife that I think that the Skaven army needs. He just brings so much utility. He could be a good magic caster and unbinder. He can push out mortal wounds. His spell, to me, is arguably the best spell in the book. So 13 dice, 4 pluses, do a mortal wound. So kills most support characters. For each mortal wound that gets through, you get a clan rat that pops up 9 inches away from the enemy. So it's feasible for him to summon, 4 or 5 units of clan rats over the course of the game, which is tremendous. I think the thing is, right, all of the Vermin Lords pair really nicely with the Deceiver. The fact that the Deceiver can teleport them to 6 inches away from the enemy means that he's this huge force multiplier. And because he's a constant in all of my lists, I guess my assessment is based on the fact that I'm assuming I've got him to move me around. But yeah, I really love Screech. He also has a reroll to wound command ability and affects all Skaven, so that's really strong. Because there's obviously an absence of rerolls broadly, and the fact that Skaven have retained them is a strength of the army.
Yeah, reroll wound rolls of 1. Yeah, wholly within 13. That's great.
I literally love all of them. Like I could conceivably mount an argument for any Vermin Lord. The worst on paper is the Corruptor, but he's also only 285 points.
Right.
And he's the only one that's able to become a priest, and we all know that priests are obviously really strong in this edition.
Yep. Yeah, they're all defensible. Exactly, because he can take stuff to become a priest. If you want a Storm Vermin Blender unit, which I think is actually quite viable still, like at 30 of those guys, they can still absolutely do work. And he's a good way to get at that. He's going to give those vermin units again some hot reroll action, as well as being a relatively interesting melee threat himself. And he is verminous, so that's he's in that. And then of course the Vermin Lord Warpseer, my personal fave. I miss his reroll to saves, but I'll take the +1 to save any day. It honestly makes me more ready to throw the ball when I need to just drop the D6 mortal wounds. He also has an incredible spell. 26-inch range, D6 mortal wounds, half run and charges, and you lose fly. Just piling on, right?
Yeah.
And
I've had that thrown in my face too many times.
Yeah,
I hate that spell.
And the fact that he can now take into the universal spell lore and get flaming weapon, which just makes him an even more potent melee threat with his big halberd. Being on D3 +1 damage is a good damage number. So he can get there. They're all great. I do love the Deceiver. I love the Neg 3 Rend. I love the Skitter Leap. He's such a hard to stop piece. The difference between being able to show up, either him or something else, the fact that he can do it to other things as well. The fact that you can make them show up 6 inches away is so much harder to screen out. It's crazy the difference in diameter of that bubble, right? You have to work so much harder to screen out 6 inches than you do to screen out 9.
And because it's a setup in the hero phase, you deprive them of the opportunity to make their movement. Right. So that only happens if you finish a move within 9 in the movement phase.
Right.
So it means, where they might have thought, okay, I'm going to fall back here or whatever the strategy might have been, you're able to take that away from your opponent, which is quite nice in this edition.
Yeah, he's so good. I actually love him with assuming he would still be on the table, which I'm not counting him for this, but if he for some reason sticks around, the Forge World Vermin Lord is like the hottest dreaded Skitter Leap out of him. Because you just backboard him and then suddenly that lunatic shows up 6 inches away with like this ridiculous weapon just coming in, boom, dropping just tons of Durthu level attacks from 6 inches away. Yeah, it's real good. It's real good. It'll catch people out.
My best with the Warp series, 24 damage on a unit of more tech. So
wow.
six go through, 5 go through, damage 6, and they only pass 1 of the saves. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
Wow.
Pick them up. It's just that's pretty great. Vermin Lords are amazing. I love Thankful. Love all these guys. Did I miss any? This is basically the big heroes. And that's what's funny. This is basically the list. They're all good. Yeah. I guess the one thing I don't have here is the Plague Furnace, if somebody wants to defend it, but sure.
No, I think just one thing to add about Thankful, though, is that obviously he's got these amazing shooting attacks and that they're able to project mortals, and that's fantastic. One of his maybe drawbacks in the past was that he only had access to a single spell from the spell lore, which is a fantastic spell lore and provides like quite a lot of diversity and utility in your list build. Now with the enhancements, you could actually give him an additional spell if you wanted.
Yep.
So he could take 2 spells from that excellent spell lore, be +2 to cast, and once per turn he can go, I'm going to roll 3 dice. And if he hits a 13, he takes some mortal wounds, whereas the Gracies just die if they hit a 13. So rolls 3 dice, chooses the best 2, and then gets +2 to cast. That makes him a super reliable caster, particularly when you can add in then the Gnaw Hole as well for +3.
Yeah. Like Thankful near a Null Hole, you're talking about just a flat rolling +3 caster.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Like, look, by any math, that's great. If you're hitting Nagash level bonus, just like it's good. It's good. I don't know what else to say. +3 to cast, strong. Yes, breaking news. Right? Yeah, you heard it here first, folks. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that all of their big heroes have some kind of use. Right? There's basically nothing that's the big hero in the army that you go, eh. That's very unusual.
And they're also getting the 5-up ward, Thankwell, and the Verminlords. They're also getting that.
Yeah, the Verminlords have the 5-up ward. The Bell has the 5-up ward. Thankwell has the 5-up ward. Yes.
I didn't check the fact. I didn't know if that had changed at all. Okay.
Thankwell heals a wound a turn as well, doesn't he? So he's got inbuilt healing.
He's always munching Warpstone, so he's just constantly healing up.
He's on an armored giant rat as well. So Bone Ripper gives him a 4-up. So he's having his best day ever. He's casting Mystic Shield. He's super hard to move. And just Skaven, generally, the heroes are able to retreat rather than activating combat. So you can be moving him in your opponent's combat phase, which is a really, really strong ability. And because of the use of screens, you can do it in ways that I think, if you know that you're going second in the turn, you can move him somewhere in their combat phase. So he's then able to cast a short range spell, which is just terrific. Like the amount of sneaky, tricksy, really on brand, in theme Skaven things you can do with the heroes is great.
Yeah. I mean, let us not forget that your heroes can just choose to leave in combat, including these big guys. Like that is one of their options. Instead of activating, Skaven heroes can just be like, nah, and just leave.
Yeah.
And some of these guys have crazy movement. Like a Verminlord, you charge a Verminlord, if I don't want this fight, like maybe you go first, maybe you don't. It's like certainly if you realize that I have the power to walk away, you've now decided what your first unit fighting is, because you have to fight my Verminlord first. Your chances of killing a Verminlord when I know this is coming is pretty minimal with most units in the game. And then I'm just going to activate and walk 10, 12 inches away. Just bye.
Right.
Like, just see you later, man. I'm out of here. Like, if I don't think I'm going to win this fight. It's not Manfred good, but it's pretty good.
And you could couple it with redeploy. So you could be really aggressive if you wanted to. You could move in their turn towards them. They charge you. Then you could move over them. If you've got like levitate off or there's a gap, like I think, there's so many options there, and it creates a really a really interesting dynamic for your opponent in terms of who am I going to charge and what's the sequencing in the combat phase going to look like.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Instantly, I was always really impressed by the Dreaded Plague spell from the Verminlord Corruptor. I know you mentioned, Sam, that you weren't too keen on him, but I was playing that in Legions of the First Prince a lot, where like they would, I think, cast, I don't know, Skitter Leap was basically like an auto cast with whoever was doing that, and then they would throw the Verminlord Corruptor more than 6 away from me, and they would have like an artifact or something that would do D3 mortal wounds on a 5-up with 10 attacks. As well as, this Dreaded Plague that, pick an enemy within 13, roll 1 dice for each model on a 4-up, and, like, bye-bye 30 Dryads or half of 30 Dryads or half of whatever.
Great Plague is still a Horde Breaker. It's a 4-up mortal wound. So it's a true Horde Breaker. Right?
Yeah.
Now, there aren't as many Hordes, but God Almighty, if they have them, is that spell potent, right? Because it's just like, it just burns people.
Yeah.
Right? It just burns the heart of them right out. It's like, again, they're all playable, and we would point out he's like the cheapest one.
Yep.
So, they're all good. It's funny because Skaven are a horde army that I'm usually completely unafraid of enemy hordes. Like, I welcome them. I'm so excited generally with most of my builds fighting a horde army. I'm like, this is great. This is going to be great. Because you'll just out-horde them. I can kill more of your horde than you can kill of mine, and, okay. Heroes. Let's talk quality support heroes that can bring value. So this is your little guys. By the way, I would point out that the Icket Claw here / now Arch Warlock that's on the screen was painted by the one and only Darren Latham. And this is an incredible piece, one of my favorite paint jobs of all time. I truly love this piece. So anyways, I just I had to go fish up this particular piece of art because it's wonderful and beautiful, and Darren did an amazing job.
And it's got the distinction. It has the distinction of being the only model in the game that I'm aware of that can do 18 mortal wounds to itself.
Yes.
Skills.
Nice.
He can just atomize himself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like I'm using him to represent both the Arch Warlock, who I think is amazing, and the regular Warlock. Both of whom have roles and absolute value. Regular Warlocks, and even their base spell is really solid in the mortal wounds it can damage when overcharged, and oftentimes you'll be like, yeah, sure. Bombardiers can huck a 2d6 damage rocket at people, which is pretty incredible. Icket's on a base save. The Arch Warlock being on a 3+ base save because he's in power armor is wonderful. So like that dude can survive against non-mortal wound things. He's super survivable. The regular Claw Lord is super survivable because in being verminous, he always gets a extra command trait. So you always just take Verminous Valor with your 1 Claw Lord. He has a +1 attack command ability, which is fantastic. So he can pass wounds, right? He's got a 4-up wound pass to regular clan rats. So he ends up being quite survivable. Grey Seer can eat rocks, cast on 3d6. Wonderful. And the Plague Priest, we've already mentioned this little guy. This little guy's the hero we all wanted and needed. He can get +1 to prey from standing near a gnawhole now, and he's got the Liber Bubonicus if you want, which is a freaking fantastic artifact still. He can, the first prayer I did against Tom, I think it was the first prayer, second prayer I did against Tom, I Great Plagued off, and then picked the Bubonic Plague against a unit of 3 Wardens, which is just like D6 mortal wounds, and if you kill the unit, then you get to jump it. Rolled a 6, wiped the unit of Wardens, jumped to another unit, did D3. Wow. Hallelujah! All hail the Horned Rat, it is a glorious day!
This is the point where we get to talk about the Redmaw curse.
Yes.
So the Redmaw curse is on a hero, the closest hero within 13 of the priest. You have to hit a 6 on your prayer to trigger it. And then from that point on, for the remainder of the game, that hero is counted as a friendly hero for your army in the combat phase if it's within 3 of the opponent and not within 3 of you. So in typical Skaven fashion, there's so many conditions going on there. There's like a heap of stuff happening, right? But what it means in practice is that you get within 13 of our friend Kairos. He can't affect the roll of a prayer. You hit the 6. He's then standing next to some screen that's stopping you from getting into him in combat. He then has to fight that screen. He's a friendly model. So you use his once per game dice change on his first to hit roll, and it is gone. The next game you come up against Gotrek, and he has to be at the front of the opposing army because, as we've said already, he's only movement 4, right? He has to be front and center. So if there's anyone within 3, he piles in backwards and then hopefully piles in a second time backwards. So he's suddenly 6 inches back and has killed whatever screens their army had. And then the third game we get to play against Archaon. Or a Star Drake. A Star Drake just eating something out of the center of a unit. It's awesome. Like, it's super situational, right? But it is amazing if you get that off, and it should put the fear in God into people, like the fear of God into people, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All the great plagues are really, really cool.
Yep.
And I just think at 85 points, he's a steal. He's an absolute steal at the moment, and getting +1 to your prayers and being able to re-roll your prayers, all that stuff. Like, it's really strong.
Yeah, sadly when I triggered it, the only thing that was in range was those Wardens, but I was okay. I was happy to just pick up the unit with the Great Plague. It's still good. Gotrek was just out of range because I wanted to so bad. Yeah, he was like, I took my little 13-inch stick and he was like 14 away. I mean, he was just like, Gah!
Imagine Gotrek into an Ironclad twice. I don't know what the maths is, but I'd be very worried if I was a KO player.
Yeah, it's good.
So good.
That's insane, Sam. I never heard of that before. That Red Maw. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really, really fun. Just in terms of the little support characters, I think These enable you to take the battalion that gives you an extra CP and an artifact without any loss to the build, because they all add tremendous value. And it's not uncommon for you to start your army with, say, Thankful and a Vermin Lord or 2 Vermin Lords, and then, you know, chuck 4 support characters in. So you could legitimately have 2 additional enhancements, which is really good because you've got a good spell lore and you've got some of the best artifacts in the game. And the ability to utilize those without actually compromising the build at all is a real strength.
Yep. So is the Plague Priest sort of an auto include at this point for a lot of lists? Like,
for me,
okay.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
he's brilliant.
And then, what about an Arch Warlock? Is that also?
He's expensive enough. You don't need him. He's good, but you're always going to have some Warlock in there generally. But it's not always going to be the Arch Warlock. It'll be like, you will have something that has Warlock in the name in basically any list. Okay?
Sure.
Unless you're doing, like, again, the edge shooting wackiness.
Most Skaven lists that I build have about 16 or 1700 points that are locked in. And the Warlock or Bombardier or Arch Warlock would be in your last 300 points.
Right.
And it would just fluctuate depending on the way you wanted the build to go. So he's 50 points more than a normal Warlock, but he gets an additional wound, +2 to his save, an additional spell. Like on balance, that package is worth more than 50 points. But it's like sometimes you just don't have the points in the bag to take him, so you have to go for the cheaper 125 point characters.
Gotcha. And then I'm just kind of trying to get a sense of, like what situational I'm on, particularly these 4 that you've listed here, Vince, and then what sort of, you're going to see the majority of the time. So what about the Claw Lord? Is that like vast majority of the time, or is that a little more situational?
I think it's more situational. I tend to use him because I like him. He can, like, his ability to just be survivable. He's a relatively interestingly hitty hero as well. Like, he can do okay against little screens and stuff. Like, he can do enough work that he's valuable. If he does take damage, he does more attacks. So, like, it's, it's fine. As I mentioned, he's sort of survivable for free because he just gets the bodyguard thing automatically. Like, there's no cost to that. It just happens. And, anybody who can just give +1 attack is like, that's a pretty good command ability, right?
Yeah.
And when he tends to be targeting units that probably already have +1 to hit because it's just built into your core rules for numbers. So you're not often needing to use the +1 to hit command ability on that unit in the combat phase. Does that make sense? What I'm saying there?
Yeah. Is that keyword or subfaction keyword limited in any way?
Or is it verminous.
Just like Skaven
No, he hits verminous people. Yeah. So it's your clan rats, your storm vermin, stuff like that. But again, like if you have a storm vermin build, and you don't have a claw lord, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Like you've chosen poorly. I mean, he's absolutely there because he turns storm vermin into blender machines, right? These are guys on a 25 mil base with a 2-inch reach, who are just going to very easily, be on like 3s and 3s if you're lucky and you get them in unscathed, 3s and 2s. Like
pretty amazing. Yeah. Nice. Sam, what do you think about the Grayseer? Is that majority or is that more situational?
Oh, he's excellent. It's just everything comes down to points. The fact that he's only 140 points and can cast twice and has innate bonuses and access to his master clan, so access to command point regeneration. Like we're in a really good spot in terms of the heroes. Like everything save for the sort of the bane of my existence, the Esh and Deathmaster.
Yeah, the Deathmaster. He's the only one that did make the list. Him and the Master Molder are here because they're like super situational.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in most lists I build, there will be some type of Grayseer. So what I mean by that is there's the guy on foot, or the guy on the bell, or the guy on the back of Bone Ripper. Like, there's something that is a Grayseer in this army somewhere.
Yeah.
The bell is probably too cheap relative to the Grayseer at the moment. So the bell's only 265, and the amount of value that it adds is so significant that it's hard for me to justify including a Grayseer. If I want a Grayseer, I'll probably chuck him on a bell. That generally, like I say, you can't get all your toys in it, and it's a really nice problem to have. The design flaw is that all of the super strong lists are 2040 points or 2035 or 2020. So you have to make some compromises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Grey Seer on foot would often show up in like a double Vermin Lord list, depending if you're still trying to fit enough meat in there. That's where he shows up, right? He might show up like with the Snout Gravel robes, and then you've got 2 other Vermin Lords, so he's just kind of in the middle, doing what he's doing. You know,
What do the ropes do again?
13-inch battle shock immunity bubble around him.
Right. Okay. Cool. Yep.
So it effectively makes him a tiny bell. So he's a very tiny bell. Yeah, these dudes are all good. I dig them. Like, it's great to be able to look at your list. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned that, like, by including these heroes, you're also turning on their specific clan-related special abilities, right? Like, the Scryer dude brings the Warpstone Sparks. The Priest is obviously bringing in the Great Plagues. The Molder guy brings, even we didn't mention it, but he does bring in more mutations if you're going heavy that direction. The Deathmaster brings, like...
Reroll to wounds, which is brilliant.
Yeah, he brings a good ability. I wish it was a little more good, but it's good. And then the Warlock, and then as mentioned, the Claw Lord has the free bodyguard. So yeah. Okay, troops. In my opinion, another strength. Like, the bench of this army is strong. So I'm not going to talk first this time. Sam, like, this is the sort of core stuff I think of, right? That have solid roles. We'll get to, like, the specialists and shooters in a moment. So this is kind of like your backbone stuff. What do you think of, like, Clan Rats, Storm Vermin, Rat Ogres, Night Runners, Gutter Runners, that kind of thing? The sort of base rats or slightly bigger rats.
Clan Rats are in the top 5 battle line for the whole game.
Yep.
I think they're a tier below horrors and zombies, and possibly a couple of others, but they're right up there at 130. 6.5 points per wound. They get +2 to their run, so they can go up and they can screen really aggressively. They can teleport using the gnaw holes, which you haven't spoken about yet. They can retreat from combat. But basically, with the Clan Rats, you just want, like, I don't know, any number greater than 1 to survive. So if someone comes into you, they fight you, and you just have a few guys left, and then that unit becomes an incredible blocker and annoying. And if you have greater than 3, they can go and contest objectives that are just being protected by small heroes. And I think the Clan Rats are really versatile. They're one of these units, not dissimilar to Hunters, where there's the eternal debate about what the best loadout is. I prefer spears at the moment just because they've got 2-inch range, and I like to try and threaten characters that are hiding behind screens. But both, like, they're not doing anything in combat. Any damage you get from them from their base profile is a bonus, or you go hand weapons and you invest extra attacks, fight on death, all of that stuff onto them. The sixes doing mortals, coupling it with the priest is actually somewhere that you could potentially, like, get a high variance output unit, which is on brand for Skaven. And then the other battles.
Sorry, Sam. You guys mentioned there's a way to reroll that prayer. How easy is that to do?
So there's 2 different ways. Automatic? You could automatically do it with the Liber Bubonicus if you're already a priest, or you could get the Great Prayer. I'm not sure what its name is. There's one that's like all priests for the rest of the game reroll their prayers for Skaven, which is a nice one.
It's +1 instead of reroll, but but still good.
Cool.
Because then you can literally be knocking off these 4-ups on 2-ups.
Yeah,
if you're near a hole. So it's better.
Yeah. Sweet.
Yeah, so it's doable. Like, realistically, it's one of, like, this army pretty reliably curses people if you want to, if you're going that direction. Or blesses or whatever.
So, and the same with Clan Rats. So, like, what are we talking about in terms of reasonably ideal conditions that you can get Clan Rats to if you're trying to do work in combat with them? And then maybe pick one of the pick swords or sides in terms of the loadout.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
what are we talking about?
You go with because you can't stack buffs anymore. If you're trying to make them an optimal fighting unit, you go with the swords because they've got the better starting profile, albeit with the shorter range. So you go with the swords. Then you get +1 to hit and wound natively for having over 30 models in your unit. Then you can go +1 attack from the Claw Lord. Then you can go +1 attack from Skaven Brew if you felt like it. So you're up to 3 attacks a pop. Then you could go fight on death from a Grey Seer. Then you could go fight on death from a Warbringer. So they be 3 attacks each. And let's just say you've got curse off as well. 3 attacks each, +1 to hit and wound. You've also gone the shield, that option that way as well, because you don't need to use the +1 to hit in combat. +1 to hit and wounds, 3 attacks of pop, 6 as immortals, and then potentially fighting 3 times.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I didn't really have a sense of like what the reasonable, baseline might be like in terms of what would be fairly doable in a game.
540 mortal wounds from a unit of 6.
Oh, Rax is, by the way, correct me. I'm sorry, Rax. Thank you. I was thinking they changed it to +1, but I was misremembering. It is still reroll, so you're good. You were right, Sam. You were right. Yeah, so it's good.
So would part of the potential play be the Skitter Leap is Skaven Tide to the teleport spell? Is that Skitter Leap that you can?
You can't Skitter Leap your units, only heroes. But the dreaded Skitter Leap puts you 6 inches away, so you're in range for curse turn 1.
That's what I was thinking, right? Would that potentially be a common play where you set up, you wait for the opportunity, to teleport, pop off that 2-up or whatever, that 3-up reroll, and then you go in with the clan rats.
Yeah, I mean if you've got like a clan rat beta strike build, right, that would be the play.
Interesting. Okay.
I would use clan rats to screen my high output things that are sitting behind, and to late game contest objectives on the spread, because they're really good at getting out of combat and then going for a run after you've retreated. Obviously, not being able to run when you retreat is a big change from 2 to 3 for Skaven, because they used to be able to use a combat as a springboard. Because they'd retreat out and they'd run and then they get +2 to their run, but that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah. But retreat, I said retreat and charge, still quite good.
Oh, it's excellent, yeah.
Yeah, we already mentioned Night Runners and Gutter Runners, the whole, pregame move or ambush capability. Rat Ogres now with 1 free mutation. Just like a unit of 4 can do work, as Tom learned earlier. Like they're when you make them insanely rabid, they're so brutal. 4 of them got in to get into something, and it's like 26 attacks, something like that, with assuming no other buffs. Their 6s are double taps. Pretty easy to get them +1 to hit in multiple ways. Just because if Packmasters are around, that's of any variety, Master Molders or the regular Packmasters, that's +1 to hit. Other bonus, obviously, you can still all out attack them in various ways, and so it's just so much you can do, and they're suddenly on. In that particular case, when I attacked him, they're also a great recipient for if you have a triumph. They're a fantastic recipient of your +1 to wound triumph.
That's one win,
right? Yeah, because suddenly they're making 4 of them are doing 24 attacks. I think I made 2 extra attacks against you. No, I didn't. I said it wrong, but then I made the right number. I didn't. I said it wrong, but I did make the right number as I counted out the dice. So I said the wrong number, but counted the correct dice. Anyways, they make a crap ton of attacks, and it'll end up being on 3s and 2s with 6s double tapping. Right? Neg 1, 2 damage each. I mean,
2 damage,
yeah, it's just brutal.
It's tasty. Thank God they're 1-inch range, not 2-inch range. What are they on? 40 mils?
Yeah,
50s?
40 mils, yeah.
40s, okay.
Or
with the
they're on 50 mils. Sorry, they're big.
With the Gutter Runners, and I think this is probably true of all of the units in the book. Like what they look like on the surface versus what they're able to do when you couple multiple buffs is quite different. So 15 Gutter Runners, I've had charge into support heroes. A Deathmaster pops out, gives them +1 to hit. I use the Triumph for +1 to wound. I've got rerolls to wound, and all of a sudden I'm doing 30 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, rerolling at Rend 1. So I've had situations there where I've been able to put up 28 wounds on a 5-wound character. And that's on the surface, not something that your opponent is necessarily expecting. So there's that sort of thing exists across the book, basically.
Yep.
Wow.
It's all about this cagey explosion, right? You have to a big part of playing Skaven is setting up the plan, right? Because you're setting up these cagey explosive moments, and you just lay it down to make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, if you love explosive rat ogres or clan rats or storm vermin like us, you should hit the like button. That's how you want to make the little clan rats happy. Hit the like button. So or subscribe if you haven't already. We're glad you're here. Welcome to the Verminous Horde. Join us. It's a lot of fun over here. We have cheese. and warp stone. All right. Now let's talk about ranged power. Boy, oh boy, is it a thing in this army. So here I've listed things like Storm Fiends, Warp Lightning Cannons, Jezzails, Rattling Guns, you name it, we've got it. Certainly the little weapon teams got more interesting now that you can put them in units and pop them out. So they can be immune until they need to show up at the shooting phase when they're just like... classic target for the sparking. If you get a good roll, you double it, then you roll, you see how it turned out, then you spark it. Great use of a spark. Turning the rattling gun into 2 damage shots is very potent. Yeah, I mean, I love all these things. They're all good. I don't know what to say other than they're real good. Like, there's a lot of real good shooting. A lot of it contains either high damage or mortal wounds. The ability to spark off of the scryer, basically scryer subfaction. Just put the air quotes around subfaction every time. Is just potent as all get out. Tom, you haven't mentioned anything. I didn't have a huge amount of shooting against you, but I had some.
You didn't. I was surprised. I mean, what I would say is they have a lot of flexible shooting and they have a lot of options. I love Jezzails in this meta because not only do they have rend, they can do mortals. Yep. So they can still do work. Obviously, your Warp Lightning Cannon went really well when you rolled that 2.
First shot, drop the 2. Always a good day.
Yeah.
And only rolled 2 1s, so he lives. It's a great day.
Yeah. It was pretty terrible. Yeah, it was. They have lots of options, is the answer, and I love that because it's a chaos army with shooting, which is something you don't normally see.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with all that.
Yeah, I had to go into a Warp Lightning Cannon, and had to in a game, and unleash hell with that thing, playing Iron Jaws where we don't have any throwaway units to take that to the face, and that situation happened. So that wasn't a lot of fun. How would you guys, are there any shooting units that you would not rate? So like Rattling Gun, would you rate Rattling Gun at all?
I absolutely rate it, especially now that you can hide it in units. It's a great choice because the problem before was it could incidentally die to sort of just splash damage, right? But the fact that it can just be in a unit and then pop out when it needs to shoot is like, it makes all the difference. Okay. There are shooting units that maybe aren't in the best place. Like, I really am not sure I rate Acolytes right now. Like, I really think they're questionable at best. Like, don't get me wrong, I love their rend. I think it's awesome. But they're so fragile. It's so easy to die. Like, I just don't think they get there. I mean, ostensibly, one of the things that drives me nuts about Clan Eshin is that all their, like, on-scroll bonuses talk about being, like, are shooting stuff. Like, they double tap on shots. And their shooting is, let's call it situational. I'll let Sam defend it if he wants to.
Yeah, I'm taking great offense at this. I tread very carefully.
Yes. Like, they can put out
space.
a ton of shots, but boy, is it a lot of dice rolling often for not much. Now, against soft targets, it's great, but that's where the story kind of stops. And there are a lot of higher armor saves in the meta right now. So, yeah.
So it's forced to hit, 6s explode. So effectively it's 3s to hit, right?
Right.
And then it's 5s to wound, but you've almost always got rerolls. So that's like 3.5s to wound. It would be so much nicer if it was just 3s and 3s, or 3s and 6s to a mortal and then nothing else happens. That would be a lot cleaner. There's a lot of dice rolling, but on average, like against a low armor save unit, you do a significant amount of damage, and then against a high armor save unit, you literally do no damage. You're better off just not rolling it. So, like, particularly now that there's heroic recovery, if you're like shooting a monster, you're better off not shooting a monster hero, because they're just going to recover those wounds. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just is really time consuming. What the Eshin stuff is far better at doing is running around and projecting like these little bubbles of space where your opponent can't move, and then throwing the shackles, and then using the warp seer spell to stop them from running and flying and all that sort of stuff as well. So Yeah, at the moment there's a design problem with Eshin because I'm rolling 160 attacks every
Hmm.
shooting phase and sometimes doing 15 damage, and it's like there probably is a neater way that we could do this.
Right. Yeah.
Nice. Instantly something reminds me, I really need, maybe you already have this and I missed it, an AOS list lab, 5 or 10 minutes on how to use shackles.
Okay.
That's a great
Do
topic.
you
Yes.
Yeah.
do you rate shackles as a generally like in a vacuum a quality choice, or maybe not in a vacuum? If you have a list that, let's say, can use it meaningfully, do you think that's a pretty solid choice for 65?
If you've got the combination of consistent, reliable casting,
Yeah.
and then some sort of range projection or shooting, I think it's an
Mm-hmm.
auto include. If you are a combat army, it is still a really nice protective piece. I personally think shackles and cogs both need to be errated. I think both those
Mm,
spells are wrong on release.
yeah.
Shackles in particular, because we're in a meta that has Balakor and that has Kairos,
Right.
and
Mm,
the combination of those pieces creates, and the Corn Demon Prince should
Yep.
be added to that conversation too. The combination of those
absolutely.
pieces,
Nerf the hell out of that
yeah,
model, everybody.
it's just
Let's.
orienting top table play into far too negative play a space. And
Yeah.
I love control builds. I'm not like I think you should think of ways to counter control, and part of that is decentralizing power so that they can't just
Mm,
turn off your one unit that does all of your things.
right.
But equally, there's a point when the control becomes too egregious, and it's sort of just like, this isn't actually fun for my opponent to not move.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little, yeah, because I haven't seen shackles in that many, like top 10.
Oh, it's
Looking at the
good.
top 10s the
It's good.
last couple of
Yep.
weekends, I haven't seen that it used that much yet. But yeah,
Mhm.
looking at it, like I was looking at it for Daughter. I've got 85 points of Daughters of Cain because events.
Mhm.
You just got too many points to play around with this
Sure.
army
She's
apparently.
got all the points in hand. Yeah. What are you
So
doing?
I'm like cycling through and like, yeah, shackles looks pretty tasty.
Mhm.
But anyway, I'm just curious.
I
Yeah,
always,
looking forward.
for my last 100 points, because I play Daughters as well, always look in the
Yeah.
cities. There's always something nice, an Easter egg in the cities book that'll
Okay.
help you out.
That's sweet. Sweet.
Very nice. All right. Modular pieces, unique, crazy options that can bring potential is what I've filled this under here. This is what the world's all about in
Mm.
Skaven land. The Doom Wheel, giant rats, the Warp Fire Thrower. Again, Warp Fire Thrower is interesting because he can be just like a little thing that's around there that pops out, sort of after the initial, guarded against a lot of that. He just kind of hides in the middle of a unit of clan rats and is like, well, if you charge me, it's going to hurt a lot. I'm going to.
Mm.
That's like, it's a great Unleash Hell target because you're just going to burn the countryside of people charging into you. And ultimately, the thing is not that many points. Like, these are very, very cheap pieces.
Warfire is one of those like roll a dice per model, 5 up, 4
Yeah,
up, you
so
do immortal.
four up, everyone within 8 takes a mortal, but
Okay.
he can crank it up to 11, and it's 2 dice per model. So
Ooh.
against 20 Mortec Guard, you get to roll 40 dice, and you're having a good day, so you roll 30 mortals and take the whole unit out. And then on a 1 or 2 it dies, but on a 3+ it survives. You get to
Right.
do it all again.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh my
It's just a
God.
great. I've got one at the moment as a threat piece. So I'm running 3 units of
Yeah.
20 clan rats, and it's like one of these units has a warp fire thrower in it. Feel free, come towards me as quickly as you want, but just beware, and you don't know which one it's going to be.
Right.
Oh, I love it, but it's so rude.
I
right.
really dig giant rats now as like Skaven budget Aether Wings.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're in packs of 6, which is an unfortunate number. I'd love it if they were 5s, but 6 is still fine. For 40 points. So it's just like, if you've got the points, you can just, sprinkle a couple of these around, and they're great for Unleash Hell, where they have like, if you need to absorb an Unleash Hell, right? They're an easy way to get it. Now, you can't get over the lines in the same way Aetherwings can, right? They're not flying giant rats. They are the most hilarious recipient of Levitate in history. But like, but just the ability to have something to either sit out in front of your stuff and just be an extra extremely cheap speed bump, right? That they've got to deal with, or they can unleash, or they can just run around real fast and be bodies that grab stuff. Like for 40 points, they're so cheap, right? That's what I like about them.
So I think I disagree, right? So I'm just going to need to, how do I frame this? You're getting for 40.6 wounds, that has to be sort of stuck together.
Yes.
And then for 65 points, you could get 5 gutter runners that could deep strike, can shoot, aren't subject to the bad coherency. So it's like if you've got the extra 25 points, the difference between the 2 units is night and day. Or you could go down that other route of the acolytes, and the acolytes are a unit. Obviously, they die to a stiff breeze, but equally so do the giant rats.
Sure.
So it's like if you've got that 25 points, I would be exploring the other options. I think that there's maybe 13 units in the book that are under 100. So it's like giant rats in a vacuum are great, but giant rats in the Skaven book, I don't rate them at the moment. I mean, I haven't tried them in third, so I need to get them on the table to test that assumption. But at the moment, I just think there's so many better options that are just marginally more expensive.
I think that's a completely fair response, Sam. For me, 40 points is the kind of thing I often have at the end of the list. And I love having that bonus unit because you can still go 4 wide in basically 2 triangles, right? With an inch between. Like, that's still a valid setup. And that's still a nice amount of coverage. They basically have a sort of 8-inch wide kind of framing sort of what they're taking up. And they're just so funny in how they scurry around. They're never going to be prioritized by your opponent in any way.
Yeah.
Right, which is a nice advantage. So you can use them in a lot of just interesting ways to either be an additional screen or to just sit kind of behind off to the side and go run real fast. And like, you gotta be wary that you don't set yourself up for an easy conquer, right? With taking objectives. But they can just be a great extra couple bodies you throw onto an objective that just sprint out there, right? So, but again, I totally get what you're saying. I'll flip it around on you. For only 15 more points, you can have 2 units of giant rats instead of the gutter runners.
Yeah, and then I'll add 5 for that, and then we'll get the plague priest. And
yeah, exactly. Oh no! I've been hoisted by my own petard. Yes. So, and the Doom Wheel, which is just admittedly not an extremely competitive piece, but my God, is it one of the most fun things you'll ever use in this game. I think it's got the potential for a lot of fun lists. Its ability to drive over models, so it's hard to like trap it in, is actually quite good. It does generate interesting shooting as well, by the by. Like, it actually has... It's not 8th edition Skaven shooting when it could, like, or whatever edition, or back in the day when it could shoot.
It could nuke things.
Yeah, just like 3 strength 10 bolts, ignoring line of sight, firing through buildings. Those were the good times. But nonetheless, it has good shooting, and it does receive buffs accordingly.
And it's one as well. It's only 165 points. It's not excessively expensive. And I know some people just include them because they're fun. They'll have like a well-honed 1,800 point list and a Doom Wheel, and I think that's completely reasonable and a nice way to play Skaven.
Absolutely.
The variance is massive. You should expect to get about 14 damage out of it, but it can spike. Its highest damage point is 48 damage.
Right.
And there'll be someone in the chat or someone watching this video that's had a 40 plus damage shooting phase with it, guaranteed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's actually a really interesting way because of its sort of mobility that it can drive over screens and stuff and do mortal wounds. And then unleash its shooting. It's actually kind of an interesting way to get at heroes that people are trying to backboard with its shots. That's often how I've used it. If you wanted a pet unit, right? Every army, everybody has their pet unit, and to me, the Doom Wheel is like one of the best pet units in history because it can actually sometimes do things, and when it does, you're gonna be like, "Whoa, holy crap!" That thing just exploded that I was shooting at. That's amazing. So like I don't think it's a bad idea at all to have add Doom Wheel as your pet unit. You don't make it your strategy to win with Doom Wheel. Your strategy is whatever's in the 1,800 points, right? That's how you're winning the game. This is I can have fun with this in a lot of different ways, right?
And we do have a precedence in Australia. So SAGT 2019, Dan Brewer came first at a 50 plus player event with a Doom Wheel in the list. So it's seen the podium before.
That guy's a hell of a player. I watched a battle report of him playing Skaven, and wow. Like, yeah, that guy knows how to play Skaven.
Oh, he is on the Council of 13 for sure. Don't wait. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. So we haven't touched on two things too much. We haven't touched on the Hell Pit Abomination, and we haven't touched on most of Clan Pestilence. We've talked a lot about the Plague Priest, but we've got like the Plague Claw, we've got Plague Monks,
Bad.
and and that general.
Okay.
So are they just not on the radar anymore? Plague Monks, and they were the scourge for a little while.
Sam, you hit it up. I'm interested for your opinion on this.
I think that they're a noisy unit, right? There's a lot going on and they don't do anything. They're a poor man's they're a poor man's gutter runner or night runner. So where my war scrolls are really busy, I actually at least can do some things with them. I don't really rate them at the moment. I think that conceptually, right, they should lean into them being the durable Skaven, but instead they made them like the poisoned fighty Skaven. Which I don't like the Plague Monks. The Plague Claw doesn't have enough attacks in this meta, so its variance is massive because its attacks are low, and it's just too likely that it will do nothing, like actually nothing, 0 damage. Yeah. In which case you're wasting your time.
What about the Furnace?
You'd have to build your list. You'd have to build your list around it. So I wouldn't. That's the only angle that I wouldn't be taking at the moment is down that sort of pestilence route.
Okay.
Yeah, the Furnace is interesting because ostensibly it's a cheaper access to the Battleshock community. Like the Battleshock community bubble still comes off the Furnace, and it affects everybody, not just Clan Pestilence. Now it also has a chance to wound non-Pestilence units that are around it. So if you're dragging that thing around the battlefield with Clan Rats, it is going to damage them a little, over time. So you've got to be aware of that, right? But I mean, its big giant swingy ball does do quite a lot of mortal wounds. Okay, so that's not to be underestimated. As I said, it's cheaper. It's actually surprising how cheap it is. It is still packing a priest on it, right? It still has a plague priest on it. It's sort of though the inverse of the Grey Seer versus the Bell situation, where the distance between the two is maybe a little too far.
Yeah, 245 for the plague priest on Furnace, 265 for Seer on Screaming Bell.
Right, and the problem, so as Sam pointed out, the difference between the Grey Seer on Foot and the Grey Seer on Screaming Bell is such that you're almost always incentivized to go up to the Bell. The difference between the Plague Priest on Foot and the Plague Priest on Furnace is such that you're almost always incentivized to go with the Priest on Foot, right? Because he's delivering a lot of the same value, but at you can have 3 of those guys basically for one Bell, and that's you're really if all you're doing is trying to get the prayers out of it. Okay, right.
Yeah.
So now, again, it does stuff. I don't want to be like it doesn't do stuff. Yeah. It does stuff. Okay. It's still got a 5-up. It has the big giant sensor, which is D3 plus 4 mortal wounds if the thing's uninjured. It is bravery 10, so it can self-heal very easily. Right? Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was just curious. And what about Sam? What do you think about the Hell Pit?
The Hell Pit's cool. The Hell Pit in particular, through the changes in Kragnos, it suffers from the same thing that the Hydra and the Charybdis and any other what are the guys in Beasts of Chaos? Any other monster that's not a hero, they're just so much worse in comparison. To say something like a Frost Lord on Stonehorn or a Frostheart Phoenix or a Vampire Lord on Dragon, the monster heroes are just in such a good spot that it makes me not really want to take just a generic monster. But yeah, I think that the Hell Pit is another high variance piece that could do a lot of damage and could be quite survivable in the right situation. So, I mean, it's certainly better than the pestilence stuff. It just probably isn't making its way into any optimized army lists.
Yeah, I agree.
Gotcha.
It's got interesting options on its horrible mutations now. There's some really interesting ones. So for example, there's the one that I would take that gives you the reroll wound rolls of 1 and something else. I don't remember what the other something is, but that's the best one on the list. For just if you're trying to make the thing competitive. There's a really interesting one that, because it suffers from the classic monster problem. It's a 5-up save. It moves, and it moves randomly, right? It's got a 2d6 movement, which is always crappy, right? 2d6 is like one of the worst movement values you can have in the game. And, but there's a really interesting horrible mutation you can take where it always moves and charges 7.
No.
It's just, that's what it does. Okay? You can still run and stuff. But I'm fascinated by that one because the fact that you can wheel up to a 7-inch charge and just do it is actually quite interesting. To not have to ever roll on that. But so just like move 7, charge 7 or whatever is kind of a fascinating thing. It's still a little bit under capable. That's the challenge. It just dies too easy. It's just ready to give a point away to your enemies. That being said, I played it in a game against like a Lumineth list that was Ymetrica and didn't have any Sentinels in it, and careened that idiot into like a tight little pack of like, there was like 5 Stone Guard and then the Cow Mountain and then a 10-pack of Wardens, all kind of, and he Tokyo drifted into the whole lot. He did a bunch of damage to all of them through his attacks. Like, he just kind of spread out his attacks and avalanche to flesh the big unit and yada, yada, yada. Like, he did all his stuff. And then, of course, Cow Mountain is just like, squish. And then he exploded and killed everybody else. Like, between all that, there was no Wardens and no Stone Guard left. And then the Cow Mountain had a few wounds on him. And I was like, all right, that was totally worth it. Totally worth it. Because obviously one of the things you can do on death is explode and just do mortal wounds everywhere. So...
yeah,
he's fun.
Cool.
He's probably not competitive, but he's fun. You will. Yeah. There are a few more fun rolls in the game than rolling that d6 when he dies. Just that's what I'll say. That is living that Skaven lifestyle.
Nice.
And then finally, I brought a little sample list, guys. I brought a little sample list for us to talk through. Okay. So, I just thought this would be a little interesting exercise. So this is Warp Seer, Grey Seer on Bell, Plague Priest, Bombardier, and the Claw Lord. And then 60 Clan Rats, 20 Clan Rats, 10 Storm Vermin in Battle Line, 4 Rat Ogres and 3 Pack Masters to as a little power-ish pair there, and then a Warp Lightning Cannon. And then the 2 battalions are Battle Regiment and Command Entourage in Magnificent for the extra enhancement. Yeah, so there you go. That's
cool.
That's the list.
So yeah, kind of a classic combined arms.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And
it works pretty well.
no, is that what you ran?
Yeah, this is basically what I ran against Tom. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, what are your impressions of this kind of list?
Yeah, I think ultimately this is the best all rounder. This sort of approach. I think you could possibly swap the Molder elements and replace them with a unit of 3 Storm Fiends.
Sure.
I think three Storm Fiends without buffs is an interesting unit. But yeah, I really like this type of build. I can't seem to like find a space for the Warp Lightning Cannon. It feels like the kind of piece where I'll roll a 5 or a 6 every single turn and then do no damage, because it's one of those strange pieces where the lower you roll, the better the model is. So I think there's a couple of elements in there that I haven't been testing out myself, but I like the composition. I think it's doing all the things we've spoken about so far, which is having the utility, being able to flex in different ways, being pretty responsive to both opposing hordes, but also being able to maybe either tar pit or shoot monsters. Like, it does lots of things you want to be doing in the current meta, and it's sort of epitomizes why I like the book, because there's so many different things you can do and still be competitive, which is nice. You're not like, by taking this sort of mixed arms build, you're not compromising your ability to win. You don't have to take a Death Star and throw everything into it, which is good.
Yep. I want to answer a question here. No More Seashore said, don't you need a Master Molder to get the mutations in the Ogre's HP8? No, you get your first one for free.
Yeah.
Much like all dealers, the first one is free. Then you need, when you take additional Master Molders, you, instead of taking their normal bonus of modifying the fighting beasts, you can take the horrible mutations instead.
Hmm.
which I think you always do. I don't think you
Yeah.
ever take the one from the book. And I'm like a bit disappointed it's not both. It'd be really nice if it was in addition to, but
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. That's what they.
Hmm.
Something like that needs to happen to actually make Molder quote unquote competitive, right?
Mhm.
Like they made them fun. And don't get me wrong, I actually really like the four
Great
the-
changes, but
yeah,
not
the-
far enough.
Yeah. The Pocket Rat Ogres, I do back them because they're a great
Mm-hmm.
counterpunch unit to sit behind Clan Rats, especially with that Insanely Rabid. They just put out so many, or as a little anvil, as you mentioned, like the 6, moving them to 6 wounds when they're 95 points apiece,
Mhm.
right? So suddenly you're getting 12 wounds for 95 points on a base 4-up save. On Bravery 10, realistically, almost all the time. They're, like, they'll stick around. It's actually shocking the kind of punishment they can take, right? Because in a unit of 4, suddenly you're talking about 190 points for 24 wounds on a 4-up save. Like, that's a square deal, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
so they can play interesting roles.
So, what do you guys think are some of the ways to try to counter what Skaven is doing, or like what are some of the challenges that they may have out there? Particular factions or play styles, or or maybe just challenges in general in terms of some of these. Seems like they'd be pretty good at the battle tactics because they have such a
Yeah.
toolbox, and
Yeah.
like they have the ability to target some
100%.
damage when they need to.
You've got
They
you've
can get
got
on
your battle
objectives
tactics on
control.
lock with this army every
Yeah.
round if you want. Like if you can understand how to use them when, it's almost never a problem. Like playing this army,
Yeah.
I think I've gotten in 5 games of Skaven in AOS 3.0 right now, and like battle tactics were the least of my concerns. Every round I'm like, this is the one I'm doing, this is the one I'm doing, this is the one I'm doing.
Right.
Like we've got options for days. So
So
I think that they also enjoy removing an objective in turn 3 because it's an attrition army. Turns 3, 4, and 5, you've got these diminishing numbers anyway. So the fact you're playing around less space is actually beneficial. That's probably true of all large horde armies, but that's been my experience with the Eshin. I know that I'm training units. I know every turn I'm losing 2 or 3 units, right? And the fact that there's one fewer place that I need to be on the board in the late game is actually beneficial for the type of build that I'm running. The obstacles that I've faced as a Skaven player have been when my opponent has been able to have multiple centers of power.
Yep.
Because my buffs are wholly within 13, so I want all my army to sort of pivot around together to utilize the wholly within buffs. And where they've got multiple centers of power, and then they couple that with really high saves, I don't have sufficient mortal wounds in my builds to get through really high saves. I have to then outbody them. That has to be the strategy, which is less reliable, obviously, than just killing the thing. Killing the thing is always the preferable approach, even in this version with the layers that you need to score. But I think a list like Vince's is better in that respect because of the number of mortal wounds that he'd be able to do in the hero phase, and then a number of mortal wounds that he could potentially do in the shooting phase that are both absent in my build.
yeah.
Interesting.
I think that like this sort of mixed arms list, what I fear with this is something that can just DPS me so hard, right? That they just eliminate my screens and all my bodies at a faster rate than I can withstand.
Yep.
Okay. Like I've got 160 wounds in this list. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good amount. It's a pretty good number of wounds, right?
Yeah.
And that 60 pack, like in general, my move is going to be to bless them if I don't have somebody to curse. Like I'm going to throw the 6-up ward on there because, duh. Just like anything that keeps rats alive, right? But if somebody can get into me fast and just DPS me down, like if somebody's coming in with a super high offense build, like a hard Suns breaker build, right?
Yeah.
Or or like a hardcore Iron Jaws type of list, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just like it's
Daughters could probably do it.
yeah, that kind of stuff. Those become really tough fights because if they can burn away your bodies faster than you want to, like you need to attrit at a certain speed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if that tilts the wrong way, you're just going to be in a bad place. That's what I'll say. That's what I fear the most. Right? I really don't love fighting. Like I have fought Host Arcanum Zinch nonsense with this and won, but I don't love it because it does make it so you're feeding them. Like this is a Skaven cast a lot of spells and want to cast a lot of spells. And so, Zinch lists just are just nom, 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 right? Just eating that up, and they're just spitting bodies because of it, and you don't keep having the hammers to deal with all those bodies over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Do you think Lumineth Techless, we're seeing still some similar variations to what we had been seeing with the Techless builds, where we're still seeing Sentinels, Wardens. Over the weekend, we actually saw a 2x10 Stone Guard and a Nemetrica with Techless. What do you guys think about Techless and Lumineth, Techless Venari or otherwise with Skaven? Is that spell dom going to be a massive problem, or is it that you can burn through
the... generate the bonuses to cast.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, like we can generate a lot of bonuses to cast. We have interesting answers to sort of Techless in that we can do 3d6, type of stuff, 3d6 shenanigans. And ultimately, like, no, I'm not. I think Lumineth play a great game. Again, like Skaven against Lumineth is honestly a really fun game. You both have interesting optionality to what you're doing. They don't have bodies, they're very elite, so when you do get mortal wounds on them, it's extremely costly to them often. Right?
And they struggle, they can definitely struggle with the DPS check.
Right.
Lumineth.
Right.
Yeah,
so
depending on what they're doing, but most of the lists that I've seen out there, they can struggle.
Yeah, you tend to not care as much about chip damage in a lot of these things. Like chip damage is like, what are you chip damaging my 60 unit? Like, okay.
Right.
Cool, man. And the heroes that I really care about are going to basically ignore chip damage to any reasonable way. So, or just heal it back if I need it to. I think it makes for a good match, is my honest answer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then so you laid out at the beginning a range of different, oops, all shooting, the swarm, mixed arms, and edge shooting wackiness. So, I mean, presumably we can rule out the edge shooting. Oh my God, I almost finished that statement. Apart from the Smorgans of the world, we can rule out edge shooting wackiness, who are capable because of their extraordinary gifts of running them competitively. How would you in particular rank them respectively in terms of competitiveness? If you're trying to go 5-0, all shooting, the swarm, mixed arms.
I don't think they're well suited for comparison because it's such a high variance book that the shooting build with a good run is the most probable of getting a 5-0, but equally has the most hard counters. So you might end up having situations where the 9 Storm Fiends win 2 or 3 events in a short space of time, but also have a heap of mid-table finishers with comparatively skilled generals. So that to me is like, that's so Skaven, and I sort of like that, right? I think the mixed arms is the most consistent, and therefore is the build that I think should become the prevailing and ascendant build over the course of this sort of year that we're doing in Gur.
Yeah. I agree. Like, if you were asking me what would I take if that was my goal, I would take a good mixed arms list. I wouldn't be this exact list because the Warp Lightning Cannon's a pet unit and it's not a good choice. Like, it's very easy to like, it is the high variance of high variance. But I take it in most fun games because, like, when you drop that 2 or that 1, you're just like, whoa, like, here comes the overcharge, baby. So, like, but I always prefer a mixed arms style list because this gives me options to respond to what my opponent's going to do. Could I get skewed into hard and peel like a soft, ripe grape? Sure. But I'd still rather take my chances with that than go skew and reach one of my hard counters and just feel like, well, now I have no out.
Right. Yeah.
So Raxia said, I found some real hard matchups. I found Suns a real hard matchup with this kind of list. Hard to compete with their numbers, even with 80 plus Klein Rats, and your hammer type stuff is usually concentrated on one side. Any tips? I mean, Suns are a tough matchup for a lot of armies. They will DPS check you very hard, and they do count. Like, it depends whether we're talking Taker Tribe or Breaker Tribe, neither of which are great. I would much rather fight Takers and have them be huge amounts of stuff on objectives because I can still outbody their big numbers. Their little giants should be your first target. because that's what's actually going to do the damage. So with any kind of ranged power you have, you target their babies and bring the babies down, because that in like a Taker Tribe type build, that's 45 bodies. That's just problematically huge. But they die pretty easy, especially to the various and sundry ranged methods you have within Skaven. Those guys will just fall over dead. So you kind of focus on the babies, and then when they have megas, then at that point it's about playing around them, right? Like you figure out which one has the Amulet of Destiny. Don't fight that one.
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Yeah.
Just like fight the other one, right?
Yep.
And get them to get caught up in nonsense. Like what you're ultimately trying to do is make them. They've got a big base. They don't have a lot of mobility. Catch them in your screens and pick the fights you want to fight. That's my answer, right?
Yeah.
If they try to bring multiple giants into you and your heroes are in the way, skitter the heck away. Just bounce immediately. Get out of there, right? That kind of stuff.
They can't beat Clannishan. Like I'll play any Sons of Behemoth player anywhere in the world. You're not beating Clannishan. You're barely going to move. I'm going to be able to shoot off stuff. I can stop you from piling in once. There's just so much stuff that Clannishan is doing. If I get the shackles off mid board, like they can't do anything, and I get reroll to wound against 2 of the megas for my whole army because of the Clannishan ability. Like it's just a really, really favorable matchup for MSU that runs and shoots.
Right.
But if I was running a typical Skaven army where I don't have those options, I think all the things that Vince has said around zoning, about avoidance of the guy with the 5++, that's the play really.
Yeah, I mean,
Gotcha.
like it's a dream matchup for the Eshin army, because they look at those baby giants and they're like, slings
points.
and throwing stars are just ready to do some work. This is the moment we have been preparing for.
killing a monster a turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've almost got a whole show without even mentioning the Warp Lightning Vortex. Maybe that would be my last one. Are we still thinking the Warp Lightning Vortex is a good option, good choice, or
In Skaven?
Sam?
Yeah,
It's a very good spell in a bottle. It's maybe the best spell in a bottle.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, my answer is it's toxic, and I would never run it. I think, but in addition to that, I don't think it's a great choice in Skaven, anyways. So, I mean, sure,
Just the delivering it is the challenge. I mean, other than
right,
Putting it where you need it is really difficult.
like, sure, you have wacky mobility tricks that you can move people around and cast it and stuff like that, but I just think it's terrible, and I wish they would rewrite the scroll into something that wasn't like it was. Just turn it into a big weird damage thing.
Yeah, they had an opportunity, didn't they? They
Right.
read all the endless spells, and that for whatever reason it stayed the way that it has. The casting value is what makes it incredibly difficult to dispel, but also makes it like a pretty low probability strat, even with the bonuses you're getting. I haven't been running it. I prefer shackles.
My concern is that where you actually need it, like, and what I mean by those top tier armies, those top tier matchups, they have auto dispel options.
Yep.
And so Archeon just picks it up, Teclis picks it up.
Lord of Change, Kairos.
Lord of Change,
Kairos,
they just pick it up. And so it's just not valuable. In those in the really difficult games, it's dead weight.
Yep.
Right. And remember, like, 100 points is a lot in this army, as has been pointed out in this show repeatedly, right? That could be real things doing real work. Right. So it just, it's a stupid spell, and I wish they would get rid of it. It has almost no point in the army it's from. Its only point is in KO, where it's too good. Just like they should have fixed it and they didn't. So I don't know what to say about that. Like, it's terrible and unfun and shouldn't be. There you go.
Right on.
I should put it back on my list.
All right, well, that's Skaven, gentlemen. We did it. We got through all of it. So, all right. As I said, I really think it's a super fun army. It is kind of hard to collect, unfortunately. Like, you're signing yourself up for a project and some not great models in some cases. So let's hope for a rewrite. But it is very fun. It is the way I always say it is my favorite second army to recommend to players. Never the first. Great second army. So
Just
there you go.
in terms of the picking it up and collecting it, Vince, I haven't spoken about my army as a hobby project. So if you guys will indulge me for a minute or two, I'll just talk about the approach I took there. So I've been working my way through the hobby cheating series on this channel, and just I set myself the goal. I was talking to my friends, Joe and Jacob from the Rage of Sigmar podcast about, picking up a hobby project where I push myself in different ways. So the objective here is to try and produce models at as fast a rate as possible, that use a series of techniques that I'm not familiar or comfortable with, and that the overall aesthetic is nice. So the individual models are not well painted, but if you look at it, because I've used the zenithal and I've used the contrast washes, and I've been really deliberate with the palette. So it's like bright yellow flowers, purple, everyone's wearing purple clothing, and then they've got bright green poison bits. So there's this green, yellow, and purple split complementary thing going on. If you look at it from 4 feet, it actually looks really like sneaky and Eshin-y. But it only takes me about 10 minutes a model. So it's just been really cool. It's been really fun for me to push myself and learn with the army. And I think Skaven is, because of the fur, the clothing, the rusty metal, like it's an army where you can actually really try out different things. And from like a learning perspective, I've learned so much about like brush control and hitting highlights and where would the sort of the light be falling, and that sort of stuff. So it's been really fun in that respect.
Yeah.
Nice,
100%.
man.
It's like, as I've said on this channel in one of the hobby cheating videos, I made a whole video about this. Claw Lords are my sorbet. Like when I am looking for something fun to experiment on. I mean, I have more Claw Lords than you can include in a 2,000 point army if you just took Claw Lords, which you would never do, because there's so many different sculpts of them out, and old sculpts and new sculpts and stuff, and they're just fun and beautiful models. And I just really love the aesthetic of Skaven. And they are a great army to learn on. Like if like part of what you're trying to do is practice, well, 120 clan rats will get you there. That's just gonna get you there.
Reps.
Yeah, that's gonna get them reps in. Did you use like the existing Night Runner kit, Sam? Like the old monkey rats?
So one of the things I did, you had this video about painting over your old Slanesh army, and you said don't strip the models, just have a go at painting over the top. So I bought stuff off eBay, mold lines included, just straight over. So I've got the massive hands. I converted up the first 30 so that they've got the bits from the clan rat with the properly proportioned hands, and they've got bits from like Warcry, which look a lot more modern and appropriate for assassins. And it was just so much work. Like it was more work to convert up a unit than it would take me now to paint like 30 or 40. So from there on, I just went with the stock build. Whatever came in the mail, that's what I used. I spent no time on construction, and it's just, it's been a super efficient army to get on the board. And like I say, I get lots of compliments about it as a collective. The individual models aren't painted well, but that's not the objective here. It's to make it look like this cohesive rat force, and it's worked really nicely.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you got photos, Sam, on your Twitter? I'll have to go check them out.
I haven't taken any nice ones. My friend Danny does a lot of commission painting for me, and I'm going to his house soon when I'm allowed to. I'm not allowed to just yet. And he's got a proper studio sort of set up there, so I'll ask him to take some pretty ones for me.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'd love to see him.
Tell Danny that I said hello, and that I can't wait to see the next army that he's working on.
Dragons. Dragons. We've been messaging the last day.
I'm excited. So Danny had this. If you go back and watch the thing on the Honest Wargamer, just real quick, because this was really a standout army, like one of the best of all time that I've seen. Danny did a wonderful army of KO. In his display board was a 40-gallon oil drum that he cut out and hollowed into a multi-level hive city.
Oh my god, yeah.
That got weirder and deeper and darker the deeper you went into the barrel. And he had his frigate was a converted Space Marine ship with the Thunderers all like coming out of it on ropes and stuff. It was gorgeous.
So the theme for his army was called Barak Degenerate. So like degenerate, but with the number 8. And then my Skaven are their mortal enemies, and my Skaven are called Clan Degenerate. So we're we've got the pun off if we get to fight each other.
That's awesome. All right, so there you go, everybody. That's Skaven. As I said, I do think it's just such a great army in 3.0. It's a lot of fun to play, as you've seen here in lots of different ways. So, for all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Sam, I'm so glad we finally had you on the show. You will be back again. We will press gang you. We would love to have you back. So, assuming we didn't wear out our welcome with you here too fast.
No, I had so much fun. I do have an analogy that I didn't get to use. I was thinking about it as we spoke. So it's the Skaven, I think, are the cryptocurrency of the mortal realms. They're highly volatile, they're widely misunderstood, and they garner really divisive opinions from intelligent people. So I think that the Skaven are your Bitcoin of the mortal realms.
I love that. That's good. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So get into Ratco, the newest crypto. I love it. Or maybe it's just Ratcoin, Warpcoin. There we go. We got there. Warpcoin. That's what it is. Had to find it. Okay. At any rate, thank you all for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. We're here every Wednesday. I will be actually on the road next week, so it will be an unusual show next week because I actually have to travel for the first time in a long time.
See you next week, Tom. Looking forward to it, buddy.
But all of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that like button. We really appreciate you watching. Hitting that like button is such an easy way, and it helps other people find the channel and the show. So I deeply appreciate it. Thank you to Tom for coming back. Thank you to Tyler, as always. Sam, absolute pleasure. All of you, we'll see you next Wednesday.